So,
Okay, we are good now.
okay, we don't have to replay
Okay, good.
what we've had so far, but I want to help the people at home.
Sorry about that.
Sorry about that. So I'm just going to wrap up and then turn it over to the folks who are directly impacted and some industry reps, and just urge you to support Senate Bill 205. I really do think it will help our restaurant industry and continue this safe and convenient practice for consumers. Thank you.
Senator Heddleman, before I go on, so we're now between the favorables and the favorable with amendments. Everyone is on the same page or not?
I think everyone's on the same page.
Okay, so why don't we have, I've got your 4 witnesses and then I have the forward with amendments. If the first person can say what the amendments are and the other people can say amen or me too. So, I have Mr. Thompson, Mr. Mariner, Mr. Clark, and then I have Steve Wise and Jack Milani. We don't have to spend a lot of time. And I still will go to the unfavorable. There are a couple signed up unfavorable. So let's just do this efficiently. That's all, to all the people, all the witnesses. So that being said, Mr. Thompson, if you want to go first, if you've got a consensus, just tell us what it is and other people can say amen.
Well, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much, and committee members. I'm Melvin Thompson, representing the Restaurant Association of Maryland, and we do support this legislation, and we thank the sponsor for bringing this bill forward. We also thank Steve Wise and Jack Milani from the Maryland Licensed Beverage Association for collaborating with us on this bill. There were some amendments that we had been discussing. A couple of those amendments were very easy. The House Subcommittee on Alcoholic Beverages met earlier today and did adopt committees, the amendments regarding requiring that those who are employees delivering alcohol be at least 21 years old and also certified in an alcohol awareness training program. It also allows for local jurisdictions to set any quantity limits on the amount of alcohol that can be provided with food sales if they so choose. And the subcommittee also debated an amendment regarding the duration. I think we're still in some disagreement there because we would be okay limiting the duration to 3 years. But I think that the Licensed Beverage Association has a different opinion on that, Mr. Chairman, right now. And so I won't be able to say me too quite yet on that. But okay, I'll be happy to talk about other parts of the bill that we have agreed upon and our overall reason for supporting this, if you would allow me to, or would you just like to end it there with our overall support of the bill? Yeah,
I think the committee understands the need to help people have a pathway out of the pandemic and to continue this. Obviously, you haven't agreed on how long that runway is. We don't have to negotiate during this hearing, but I think we all would like, whether it's 1 year, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, the closer you folks can get would be helpful. If not, we'll just make a decision by fiat.
Okay, and if this bill will go to your alcoholic beverages subcommittee, we can certainly have those conversations there.
Yeah, I'll have to speak with the subcommittee chair whether it's resolved. We don't want to have the debate too many times. So I'll talk with Senator Simon Aaron and we'll figure the structural question.
Okay, well, if I could just explain then, the reason we want 3 years, Mr. Chairman and committee, is because it's going to take some time for the local jurisdictions to decide the process that they will use to provide this authorization. And we have 25 licensed jurisdictions in Maryland, and those jurisdictions will not arrive at their process at the same time. And so we believe that the longer the better this stays in effect will be more beneficial to restaurants to take advantage of this economic benefit in the way that it was intended. And so I think, our position would be that the committee does consider the longer 3-year period of duration for that reason. And we would certainly appreciate your favorable consideration of that. I do have two other restaurant operators with me today that I would like to allow the opportunity to speak in favor of this legislation. Thank you.
That's fine, but we have about 30 bills today. So Mr. Mariner and Mr. Clark of our own Galway Bay, please, you're welcome. I think we're fairly familiar with the issue, but we'd love to hear from you.
I'll go first. Randy Mariner. I reside in Howard County, Manor Hill Farm, home to Manor Hill Brewing. We're the state's largest farm brewery as well. As chairman and founder of Victoria Restaurant Group, my family and I also own and operate Victoria Gastropub in Columbia and Manor Hill Tavern in historic Ellicott City. For almost a year under the governor's executive order, we have been safely selling beer, wine, and liquor for off-premise use as coupled with our curbside pickup of prepared food sales. To date, we have had absolutely no negative issues resulting from these sales. These beverages are provided in totally sealed containers. There's no confusion with open container laws. These additional consumer benefits can now provide our customers not only with helping them, but providing much needed additional revenue to us. And consumers really like the convenience of quality carryout food coupled with the ability to get their favorite beer, wine, or cocktail in one-stop shopping. COVID-19 has decimated the restaurant industry with closures, dine-in capacity restrictions, and hours of operation limitations. It will take years for us to recover, and some won't recover at all. Conversely, Class A retail alcohol outlets have seen their revenues soar during this pandemic. Therefore, these privileges should be permanent because it is likely to take us to a whole new norm. A sunset should be, if placed on this bill, should be 3 to 5 years and allow us to recover. So I urge you move 205 without amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mariner. Mr. Clark.
Good afternoon, Senators. Thank you, Senator Hedelman, for providing this bill to the legislature. We appreciate you considering it. My name is Anthony Clark. I'm a co-owner with Michael Galway of 4 restaurants, 1 in the city, Galway Bay, and 3 in the county. And we've obviously, and I won't repeat everything my colleague Randy has mentioned there, everything I agree with. But, you know, as we adjusted to COVID, as we got shut down on the 15th of March, went to carry out only, and then adapted and changed our operations as we had to. And that's what restaurant owners are really good at and operators to adjust to it. Having different kinds of legislation that came out to allow us expand what we did was, you know, another lifeline. And what it did was create a convenience for a customer that they weren't even aware of that they missed before. And the big one for these carry-out alcoholic drinks are things like cocktails that they don't make at home, like Orange Crushes or Pirates Cove or Pirates Punch that we sell down in Pirates Cove, or even a really nicely poured pint of Guinness, even though it will come on a lid, but you can't get that in a liquor store. And these are different things. And most of our customers that do this regularly, they cite it and say, this is so convenient and I can get it here in one place. I can go home, have my dinner, open my drink, have my cocktail, and be able to enjoy it as if it was, and how it's made by our local bartenders, because not everybody can make a good Orange Crush. So I won't keep you too long. I think this is a very favorable bill, all things considered. It's going to be very helpful for restaurants to continue to operate with a more convenient platform and extend to other ways of selling our product and providing our service to the community. And we appreciate your consideration, and I support Bill 205. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Clark, and thank you for your potato leek soup, which is excellent. Let's go to Steve Wise. Favorable with amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and thank you to Mr. Thompson and Senator Hedelman. Very quickly, I'll go right to the 2 issues. One is there's an amendment that would allow liquor boards to put limits on the amount of alcohol that could be taken for carryout and delivery. You're going to hear some of those concerns later. We respect those. And from the Licensed Beverage Association standpoint, we also support that because we have package store owners as well as bars and restaurants within our membership. And there is some concern that some of the bars and restaurants, and we expect it to be relatively few, will attempt to turn into package stores with this privilege. So if that is the case, we just want to make sure the liquor boards have the authority to step in and intercede if they need to. Mr. Thompson mentioned the sunset date. We support a sunset date that's in the near term. We think 2022 is appropriate, and let me explain why we say that. You're going to hear a bill later today, and I'm not going to confuse the two bills, but that bill, we believe, requires a near-term sunset. And I will explain the reason for that at that point in time. But we say that with this bill just so that we are consistent across the bills. And I think that'll make some more sense later if you bear with me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Wise, is that 821?
That's correct.
Okay. And when I saw 821, I thought, I didn't realize there were two bills on the same issue from different perspectives, or I might have held all three, but we call this, so we're proceeding. Mr. Milani, Jack.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Steve's covered.
I'm sorry?
Say Steve has covered it. I'm good.
Okay. Okay. How about James Moran? Mr. Moran, are you with us?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Jim Moran, at-large county commissioner for Queen Anne's County. We support this bill with amendments. We don't feel that one cure fixes the entire state. Queen Anne's County would love to have a sunset clause with this, and they would love to be able to have our local liquor board set that sunset date. We feel that after pandemic is over, we'd like to see it terminated on a number of reasons, and also would like to have the fees authority given to each local liquor board. Certain counties can handle that. Certain counties can't handle that when I'm talking about inspections and compliance. And, you know, some counties might need the help financially. I will say that the sunset clause, I mean, I understand that our restaurants, we have plenty of them. You know, we have a lot of tourism in Queen Anne's County. But I don't understand how this bill helps the bartenders, the waiters, and waitresses. And especially if you're going to keep it going for 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, I don't know how that's going to help those employees get back on their feet. So, you know, we support the bill, but we would like to see the amendment that allows the local liquor boards to set the sunset. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to get a question from the committee, then we'll move to unfavorable. I'm going to start with a very quick question. Mr. Moran, in the case that the committee doesn't want to give the sunset length to each local board, do you have any recommendations from your county what you would prefer? You know, we may consider it. We may consider just putting limits, letting the local boards do the limits. And again, I'm speaking for myself and not for the subcommittee chairman of the whole committee.
Yes.
But perchance, we set a statewide law on the duration. What is your inclination?
Well, again, when we met, the consensus was when the pandemic was over, the restrictions were lifted on the restaurants, so would the selling of alcohol to go with the orders. So if that would be our ideal situation, but if we have to put a time limit to it, the shortest possible.
Okay, so if the executive order ends, say, July 1st, you would like it as soon as possible after that. You lean towards a shorter time rather than a longer time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We see that problem. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Senator Simon Ayer?
Just a brief question, Steve.
No, it's fine.
Is it okay, Mr. Chairman?
No, please.
Okay. First, the question is for Steve Wise. We heard that the one testified that they wanted the locals to set it. It sounded like you were saying 2022. Are you talking about a statewide? And I'm assuming that's December 2022.
Yeah, obviously we'd lead the month, of course, the entire thing's up to the General Assembly, but we would suggest a 2022 date that if for no other reason, you can come back next year and extend it if you need to.
Senator Simon Ayer, is that it? Okay. Senator Carrozza and Senator Hester. And again, let me remind you, there's another bill on the same subject matter, not exactly the same bill, but on the subject matter, which we'll be taking up. And I don't know if I didn't realize maybe we should have taken them up together. I'm still thinking that through. Senator Carozza, and then,
Mr. Chair, Senator Hester was before.
okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say a quick hello to Randy Mariner, who's a constituent in District 9. And a question would be, who has the best farm brewery in District 9? Thank you.
okay. With that being said, let's go back to you, Senator Carozza, followed by Senator Ellis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And my question's for Mr. Thompson. Thank you, Senator Hedelman, for sponsoring this bill. Mr. Thompson, you were advocating for a certain time frame. I believe it was 3 years, and I'd like to better understand why you're advocating for that time frame.
Thank you very much for that question, Senator Carozza. I certainly do appreciate it. And when the bill was originally introduced, we didn't have a limit on the duration. Our intention was for that to be permanent. But we have had some additional conversations, and our legislative committee met and decided that 3 years at a minimum would be acceptable to us for reasons that I explained. It's going to take a while for the local liquor boards to come up with the process. There are some local liquor boards right now that require a public hearing for any additional privileges allowed to licensees. And again, as I mentioned, we have 25 local licensing jurisdictions, and they're not going to arrive at this process at the same time. And so we recognize that. And we also recognize that some of our restaurants that are already enjoying this privilege have already invested in related equipment and containers, and some who decided that they weren't going to do that quite yet would like a defined time frame that is a little longer, so that if they decide to make these investments, then they can do the related marketing and training and really promote this to their customers to take advantage of it for a duration that makes sense, because it's likely to take our industry 3 to 5 years to recover from the effects of the pandemic. And while we would love for all of our customers to come back immediately for dining in, we don't know when that's going to happen. So this provides an additional revenue stream to restaurants that have liquor licenses, because they really enjoy that benefit and the extra profit that the alcohol sales brings into their businesses. And our customers really like the benefit and convenience of ordering some alcohol to go with their carry-out food orders.
Okay,
So as
Senator Ellis.
introduced, it was permanent.
That was the way that we had originally intended, but our committee did decide as a compromise that we could live with 3 years at a minimum duration.
Thank you.
Yeah, look, the different stakeholders have different perspectives. Some of the retailers would like to be able to do it permanently, and they've shifted their position. And some of the distributors and package people would like to have it as short as possible. So that's really a fundamental question on this bill. Senator Ellis, followed by Senator Washington.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator Hellman, for this bill. I understand the reason for this bill to help our restaurants that have been hurt so bad with the pandemic, and all the great citizens, men and women of Maryland who work in these restaurants. I'm thinking of another side to allowing more alcohol to flow to American families. Reports show that football Sundays are some of the most violent times in this country because of alcohol being consumed. And with the pandemic, we're looking at domestic violence have gone up tremendously in homes across the state and the nation. And so I'm wondering if we are making alcohol much more readily available, if that will replicate the football Sundays and a lot of this problems we have. We just don't want to have make it easier for one set of our citizens and so much harder for, say, some of our families. I don't know if anyone is kind of able to answer that.
Yeah, I'll let one answer briefly. We have two opponents to the bill, Senator Ellis, who are probably going to enunciate that very issue.
I'm happy to address it if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
So, I mean, there's nothing to prevent in the situation that you are discussing, somebody from going to a packaged goods store and getting cases of beer or alcohol. So I would argue we're requiring that they have food with this. And, one of the amendments puts some limits on what could be carried out so that the excesses that you're talking about, which are serious, really, I don't anticipate that the excesses contributing to the issues that you're talking about.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Senator, for that.
Okay, I'm sorry, Senator Washington.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Senator Hellman, for this bill as well. I just want to clarify that this is just mixed drinks. This does not include beer or wine.
It actually includes all alcohol, Senator, and thank you for the question. That's a good clarification to make. It includes all alcohol that is authorized under the business's license to sell. So if you're authorized to sell beer or wine or liquor, a lot of those businesses have been selling mixed drinks and cocktails with carryout orders, then this legislation would allow that to continue as long as you're providing that sale of the alcoholic beverages with food for either carryout or delivery.
Now some, just again to clarify, so some carryouts already have that option, is that correct?
That is correct. There are some jurisdictions.
Prior to COVID.
That is correct. And that's a very good question because there are some jurisdictions that already have what we call an off-premise privilege for restaurants, which are typically on sale. And so those that have an off privilege already as part of their license under the executive order were allowed to also sell mixed drinks and cocktails for off-premise consumption because those off-premise privileges previously were restricted to only manufacturer sealed containers like bottles of wine or cans of beer. And so that language in our bill is consistent with what's currently allowed under the governor's executive order.
And then what essentially this would allow, again, just to clarify what we're asking, the comptroller and other folks said, okay, as long as you can extend this, and then it became an executive order. So, but this, my understanding was that it had to do mostly with mixed drinks, that somebody would, if they were going into the restaurant, the argument is that somebody would be having a meal and that they could have a mixed drink, a margarita or.
Senator, no, the bill is more extensive. It allows off-sale beer and as much as a few cases, or wine, et cetera. So it is, if you serve beer now, you can sell it off under executive order, I think up to 4 or 5 cases. And the same is true with wine and spirits.
Right, and thank you for that. I just wanted to say that out loud because again, I just wanted to clarify what was an attempt to sort of help extend our businesses through a COVID relief and what was actually sort of creating a new class liquor license. Okay.
Right. And those restaurants that have only an on-premise privilege would have this off-premise privileges for beer, wine, or if their license is authorized for it, liquor sales as well under this legislation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to the opposition. Let's have Brooke Torton, followed by Rami Eck.
Right, thank you. All right, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Brooke Torton. I am a supervising attorney for public health clinic law students at the University of Maryland Carey School of Law, testifying in opposition to SB 205. So as we've already heard, the executive order, which is currently in place, is temporary, but there is some serious public health concern with making such measures permanent. And in part, what I just want to focus on during my brief testimony is that there has been inadequate enforcement to ensure that these sales are not being made to those under age 21. So since the implementation of this order, local alcohol enforcement agencies and officers have really struggled to keep up with this drastic expansion in carryout and delivery sale of alcohol. They've had no increase in personnel or funding. And as I mentioned, I supervise clinical law students engaged in public health work at the law school. One of my students set out to survey the local liquor enforcement entities throughout the state to determine if and to what extent enforcement was taking place. So she had in-depth conversations with 16 of our 24 jurisdictions. Generally speaking, these jurisdictions reported that there was either limited or non-existent enforcement operations relating to these new provisions. And many representatives reported that they were underfunded and understaffed to monitor these new carryout licenses. We were given data on 2 jurisdictions. They each performed, I think, 1 or 2 operations to determine whether the age of purchase was being checked. So that's all we have is just these few operations, and the results were not good. In Montgomery County, the alcohol beverage service performed a compliance check and found that 55% of the restaurants did not check the purchaser's ID when they picked up their order, including the carryout cocktail. And in Queen Anne's County, prior to the implementation of this executive order, ID check compliance was 98%. It dropped to 52% in the few operations that they were able to conduct. And so although I would urge an unfavorable vote, if it is that this committee's inclination to vote favorably, I would agree with the sunset provision to be as brief as possible. But I also think there needs to be some type of allotment for an increase in personnel or funding to get enforcement operations going and to ensure that these sales are not being sold to those under 21 and that ID is being checked. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Torton. Ms. Eck?
Good afternoon. Yes, good afternoon, Chairman Pinsky and members of the committee. My name is Rami Eck, and I'm past president and policy chair of the Maryland Public Health Association. I'm also an epidemiologist focusing on alcohol and other drug use and policy implementation. And we are here mostly in opposition to Senate Bill 205, but as it is written. So I'd like you to refer you to our written testimony because of the limited time, but essentially we've made recommendations in about 8 different areas that are based on a public health and safety framework of alcohol regulation. Hopefully, if nothing else during the pandemic, we've realized the value of public health, and we're here to offer you that frame. These include a sunset, and we're very much in support of the 2022 timeframe, implementing and funding compliance checks, as Brooke Torton just mentioned, tamper-proof containers and labeling, and a penalty even on the loss of the permit for sales to minors and sales to intoxicated patrons. The one thing that sort of stands out to me is this is being promoted as a bill of convenience to the consumer. However, convenience is not really part of our considerations when regulating alcohol. It is the health and safety of the entire population. So if this bill is really to temporarily support struggling businesses, then that is one conversation. If this is to expand convenience to customers, that is an entirely different conversation. And so this makes it sound like our emergency situation is being taken advantage of to create permanent legislation that otherwise would not have been brought to the table. Liquor stores have not closed during the pandemic, being deemed essential, so there are no limitations on picking up alcoholic beverages such as a bottle of wine to drink with your carry-out food. The pandemic has created a situation where we put emergency allowances in place to support our local businesses. But by promoting this legislation as a convenience really negates that argument. I'd also like to say that I know a lot of the local licensing authorities are very concerned about this because every time a statewide bill comes out, we ask the local jurisdictions to do something, but they're not giving funding. They're not given enforcement. The state doesn't do enforcement on these state level bills, but they expect the local licensing authority to be the ones to administrate, to adjudicate, to enforce. However, as Brooke Torton pointed out, these don't come with increases in funding along with the responsibilities. So part of what we'd like to also to do is just to see if we're giving more responsibility to the local jurisdictions, we'd also like to see them given the tools to be able to do their jobs very well. So,
and Dr. Eck, I'm sympathetic to a number of your views. That might need some separate legislation next year or the year after. Obviously, we can amend what we have before us. So in terms of your comments are totally appropriate. In terms of enforcement and local board versus state board, we might need some separate legislation for that, but we are always open to new ideas.
Okay, and I appreciate that, and I won't go forth with that because I do think it is a longer conversation. Right. I just know there's a lot of bills that come from the state and they don't come with these things attached.
Okay, questions for the opponents? Seeing none, that concludes the hearing on Senator Hedelman's bill. We're going to go to Senate Bill 426. Senator Ferguson, the Senate President has joined us, who are the head soprano. Welcome, Senator Ferguson. This is Baltimore City 46th District.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. It didn't go so well for the head soprano, so I don't know about that. I guess we don't know, right? In any case, today I have Senate Bill 426 before the committee. This is the annual 46 district liquor license extravaganza. As many of you all have seen over the years, the 46 districts, particularly the city overall, but this 46 district has a very complex regulatory scheme around liquor licenses because of the close proximity of entertainment areas and residential areas. And also has the highest concentration of liquor licenses in the state of Maryland. So there are a lot of rules and regulations. So there are a number of changes in this bill. I'll be very brief about them. First is it removes a sunset for a provision for a, I'm sorry, that's in the amendment. The first is to allow from a 6-day to a 7-day Old Line Distillery, which is in the Highlandtown neighborhood. They have a distillery, so they are unable to do a 7-day because of the type of license that they have. They're a phenomenal community partner. They do really great work. They're incredible young entrepreneurs. And so this will allow them to be competitive for their outdoor area, outdoor service area. The next is the addition of a Class D license on South Haven Street, which is in sort of the Canton Brewers Hill area, for the creation of a Bark Social Dog Park, because apparently dog parks and social clubs are now a thing, coming to the 46th district soon, hopefully. Next, we have a Class B liquor license being transferred and allowed for Di Pasquale's, which is a longtime 4-generation business in Highlandtown neighborhood. They are moving locations, and so this is a liquor license to allow them to move. Similarly, in the amendments is the removal of a license from where they were going to move in a prior year. Now they have found their permanent spot. We took that one out of the law and moved this other one. And then finally, we're moving the sunset in the amendments from the Sagamore Distillery cocktail bar, where it was unclear whether or not that it was actually going to open, and we didn't want it to be available if it did not open. All parties are in agreement that it is open, has been an asset, and so the sunset is being removed. With that, Mr. Chairman, with the amendments in the bill, would urge the committee to give a favorable report.
Any questions? Senator Ellis, I see your hand. Is that up from before, or do you want to challenge the Senate President? Okay, thank you, Senate President.
Thank you.
Questions? That completes the hearing on that bill. We're going to get a Senator Patterson, 285. We have Senator Patterson and then Gerald Boyd. Senator Patterson, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. I do appreciate the opportunity to introduce Senate Bill 285, which requires the Governor Office of Small Minority and Women Business to conduct a study of the participation of minority-owned businesses in the alcohol beverage industry in the state. Some of you may know that I did serve as a member of the Senate's President Works Group, and one of the major components of our work group was how do we ensure that we spread the wealth around throughout the great state of Maryland to ensure that minorities and women were getting their fair share. And so today, I believe we have a clear case of how minorities have been limited from participating in certain industries, and in this case, alcohol beverages industry. I believe it's essential for us to at least make a commitment to conduct, as requested, a study of this $30 billion industry to determine the scope and degree of any disparities upon our women and minority communities. The budget analyst has clearly indicated that perhaps this can be done without any additional financial resources, so that's a good plus. And finally, colleagues, let me just say that this legislation was sponsored in 2020. It was House Bill 133, sponsored by the chair of the Maryland Legislative Black Caucus, I think the vote was something like 132 to 1 in the House. It was later referred to this committee with no action. And I suspect it got caught up under the COVID virus and did not make it in a timely manner. But colleagues, today, we do have the time. We do have the time to undertake this study to make sure that we are being fair and we are about the business of spreading wealth to all Marylanders throughout the state. And so I am very pleased, Mr. Chair and colleagues, to have with us today Mr. Gerald Boyd, President and CEO, Legacy Partners Distribution LLC. And I think he's the only one that's going to speak today, but I'm just going to go on the record in advance and ask that you carefully listen closely, listen what this person has witnessed. Not every day, I think, we get individuals who have tried and followed the law and the rules and regulations and have not been successful in attaining what I would consider fair consideration for participation in this great enterprise. So with that, I ask that you give this bill a favorable response, and I will now turn it over to Mr. Boyd.
Thank you, Senator Patterson. Gerald Boyd, Legacy Partners Distribution, welcome to EHE. You may begin your testimony. Is Mr. Boyd in the room?
Yeah, he's present. And I
Oh,
said,
there we go. He's Mr. Boyd, you're muted. If you can unmute. We're glad you're here and we want to hear what you have to say. It's in the lower left. You probably know that. Lamoria, can you help Mr. Boyd or no?
I just clicked on unmute, but he has to actually click on it himself as well. I can't do it alone.
Mr. Boyd? No, we still can't hear you, Mr. Boyd. I don't know if you can hear me. The lower left, yeah, you're still muted. Senator Patterson, we might need to go on to another bill, and then if Mr. Boyd can unmute, maybe we could come back. We have a lot of bills, so we want to move forward.
okay, that's fine as
One
long.
more second for Mr. Boyd. If you can figure out in the lower left, it says mute. You need to unmute.
Also, I'm sorry, Senator Patterson, if you could have one of your staff call.
There we go. Mr. Boyd, you're there. Okay. Mr. Boyd, welcome to EHE. Can we hear you now?
Okay, greetings again, Chairman.
If you can come closer or speak up so we can make sure we hear your testimony, that'd be helpful.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Better, thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify to Senate Bill 285. I'm Gerald Boyd, President Emeritus of DB Consulting Group, a government contracting business my son and I established in Maryland in 2000. Today, the company has more than 300 employees. 7 years ago, I started a new business in Maryland, Legacy Partners Distribution. As the business owner, I received federal and state licensing to operate a liquor wholesale distribution business in Maryland, and I hired staff, leased warehouse space, and procured contracts to distribute several brands of liquor. Nearly 88 years since the end of Prohibition in 1933, a major disparity exists in Maryland in the liquor industry, as African Americans and other minorities are still grossly underrepresented. Maryland's regulatory approach to alcohol sales is a three-tiered system, which is consistent with nationwide regulatory approaches. The three-tiered system is comprised of 1, the supplier tier, 2, the wholesale distributor tier, and 3, the retailer tier. I would like to note that the level of underrepresentation in tier 2, the wholesale distributor tier, is such that African Americans and other minorities are virtually non-existent. Relative to this, for the past 3 years, I've tried to supply products to the casinos in Maryland, specifically at the Horseshoe Casino in Baltimore City, the Maryland Live Casino in Anne Arundel County, and the MGM Casino in Prince George's County. Maryland casino licenses require that at least 29% of a casino's purchases of goods and services be made with a minority-owned business if one exists. Given that the 3 casinos named hadn't met that 29% participation requirement, my minority-owned liquor wholesale distribution business should have been utilized to help meet the requirement, especially given that I'm the only African-American liquor wholesale distributor licensed in the state of Maryland. Specifically, over the last 3 years, these casinos have averaged almost 200 cases of liquor from Legacy, my company. By comparison, they've ordered at least 31,000 cases of liquor from the other wholesale distributors. This highlights the disparity. This appears to be a statewide issue, as it is apparent that my minority-owned business does not have equal access to compete for the liquor wholesale distribution business at the Horseshoe, Maryland Live, and MGM casinos, which are in different jurisdictions within the state. Today, the industry is dominated by a handful of wholesale distribution companies who refer to themselves as family-owned businesses. They have made billions of dollars in generational wealth since the end of Prohibition in 1933. To this point, a review of the current websites for the 3 large distributors, wholesale distribution companies, will reveal that their combined revenue in 2020 alone was over $30 billion. Without a study to confirm the magnitude of the disparity that has existed since Prohibition ended, the large wholesale distributors will continue to conduct business unaware that there is a major disparity, although they are fully aware that a significant percentage of their revenue and customer base comes from African Americans and other minority populations. This study is needed to confirm the existence of this egregious disparity, and I support the passage of Senate Bill 285.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. Thank you for your testimony and your time. Colleagues, for the record, Nick Manis, Steve Wise, Bob Douglas all submitted written favorable testimony from the beer wholesalers MSLBA and the Licensed Beverage Distributors of Maryland. And that MDOT submitted informational testimony. I see no questions, so that will complete the hearing on Senate Bill 285. Colleagues, at the chairman's request and as a birthday present to him, if we can try to move things as quickly as possible, and if there are questions, obviously we want them, but let's have them brief with brief answers. So, because we still have a voting session today and it's Friday. So the next bill is Senator Carter. Senator Carter, Senate Bill 396, Baltimore City Alcohol Beverages Licenses, Hours of Sale. Senator Carter will kick us off if she's in the room.
Senator Kagan, her staff, Daniel Zanchetan, is going to be presenting on her behalf.
Okay, Daniel, there we go. I see you. Okay. Following Daniel, we're going to have Christopher Burnett from the Baltimore City Council, Sean Stinnett, and Dorothy Cunningham. Mr. Zanchetan, welcome to EHE. You may begin your testimony.
Good afternoon, Madam Acting Chair. I appreciate the indulgence allowing me to testify, and I do bring greetings from my good friend Ronald Zucker, by the way.
I talked to him today, actually, today.
We'll talk. Madam Acting Chair, this bill modifies the hours of sale for Class BB7 license in the for the area bounded by the south side of Frederick Avenue between South Augusta Avenue and South Loudon Avenue. Currently, the hours are from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. This bill modifies those hours to 9 a.m. through 9 p.m. This bill is the result of community concern and is much needed to help improve the quality of the surrounding area. Under the current operating hours, members of the community have notified the 41st District delegation and other local leaders of an increase in quality of life issues such as loitering and violence in the area. They expressed the belief that a minor change in operating hours would help mitigate some of the issues and requested our assistance. Madam Acting Chair, Baltimore City Councilman Christopher Burnett is present, and local community organizations represented by Mr. Sean Stinnett, Northwestern District Police Community Relations Council, and Irvington Community Association represented by Dorothy Cunningham, and I'm not sure if she can make it. She'll be testifying as well.
Thank you.
I do want to apologize. I want to stress that Senator Carter would be here, but for the fact that she is actually voting at this moment in JPR, she really wanted to be here to do this. Thank you.
We are making a note that she hates us in EHE and the bill is dead on arrival. So you can just tell her that for sure.
Okay.
Okay. We don't take it personally. We understand we all have to be in multiple committees. So please send her our best for a good weekend and a good voting session. Okay. Mr. Burnett, Christopher Burnett.
Thank you all, members of the committee and community members who have joined, and a special thank you to Senator Carter for introducing this legislation. My name is Councilman Christopher Burnett. I represent the 8th City Council District, which includes the boundaries listed in the bill. I do want to note that I've submitted written testimony, so I'll be sure to keep my remarks short and concise. So this particular area is an area that has a tremendous amount of public safety challenges. We've been working very diligent with the community association to establish a business association, cleanups, neighborhood walks, et cetera, and trying to inject a lot of resources here into an area that has been traditionally had struggles with crime and gun violence. The BD7 is located in this footprint in particular, have been a challenge, particularly providing a strain on the public safety resources by their hours stretching well into after midnight. The location is on a business corridor that otherwise has more like carry-out style places, a hairdresser. Most of the stores there close around 10 o'clock at the very latest midnight. And what we often see is that this particular shop, staying open as late as it does, throughout the day and well into the evening, presents a public safety issue for the residents. You mentioned Ms. Cunningham. She had to jump off to attend a family matter, but I told her I would share her concerns. She's the Irvington Community Association president and also lives within walking distance to this licensee, and is often hearing well into the evening, whether it be gunfire or just large gatherings, individuals loitering, and it really does place a strain on policing resources who are otherwise trying to work throughout the neighborhood, throughout the district, and they really have to and a lot of trying to find a better way to say it, babysit this particular property to ensure that well into the evening that things don't continue to persist. And so this is something that I know is well supported throughout the entire that Frederick Avenue corridor. There are multiple community associations that represent that area, but Ms. Cunningham is on the front lines. That is the consensus, is that they would like the hours to be scaled back so that they can still continue to operate the business, which is supported by the community, but there are again concerns that their ability to stay open well into the evening has presented a particular challenge. They're the only store on the stretch open that late, and we're looking for continuity in hours and a shorter window of time in which they're operating. Thank you, members of the committee, and I'll take questions if needed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Council Member. Next, Sean Stinnett from the West Arlington Improvement Association. Mr. Stinnett, welcome to EHE.
Yes, thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Chair and Committee. My name is Sean Stinnett. I'm actually the president, as well as West Arlington, but also the president of the Northwestern District Community Relations Council. I'm here to give a favorable report on Senate Bill 396 regarding the 9 a.m., 9 p.m. Liquor store hours. myself and President Dorothy Cunningham have been corresponding a lot lately in the last year to a year and a half in regards to this bill, because we actually over the northwest side of Baltimore City, we have a similar bill that's already in place that in the Liberty Wabash area that confines the hours from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. It is working. It is helping, particularly is helping with the Baltimore Police Department, specifically the Northwestern District crime reduction strategy. It eliminates a lot of unwanted pedestrian traffic, particularly even during the early morning hours when we did have a very major issue with these stores being open, and then young kids going to school and so forth, because we have a school like within 1 block of one of our areas one of our stores that we have really a serious issue. And also it alleviates a lot of that unwanted bad traffic as far as even one of our good partners, good businesses partners that's in the neighborhood, and that's the ShopRite. And that allows a lot of people to actually, feel more comfortable as far as going to that location, whatever hours of the day or evening. Also, it helps to eliminate loitering, which of course brings that negative traffic. And like I mentioned before, it supports the Northwestern District. But in this case, I believe profusely that this will help out the Southwestern District and them reducing a lot of the bad activity that happens around this area. And also it eliminates the open air drug trafficking that's going on, because that'll kind of help that as far as to eliminate that as well when you do have those hours or more. The word escapes me what I'm looking for, but at any rate, but I want to close up and say that I myself, and then also, like I said, we're all in support and speaking on behalf of Ms. Cunningham, that we do support Senate Bill 396, and hopefully you'll give a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stinnett. I should have mentioned earlier, most of these bills, as the chairman likes to note, most of these bills are local bills. Most of them are not controversial. Most of them do not have opponents. So to the degree that you can be real abbreviated in your questions and in your testimony and in your answers to any questions, that will help us to get to our voting session and go home for the weekend. So with that, Ms. Cunningham, you may be able to add your own testimony. I see that you're in the room. If you can show us your face and unmute, we'd love to hear your testimony, unless you were deferring to Mr. Stinnett as he implied.
So she may still, sorry, Councilman Burnett here. I've been exchanging text messages with Ms. Cunningham. I think she forgot to log out, but she had to step away. She asked that myself and Mr. Stinnett speak on her behalf.
Okay, well then let's have it on the record then that Dorothy Cunningham from the Irvington Community Association supports this bill. Seeing no questions, that completes the hearing for Senate Bill 396. Thanks very much. Good luck to you, Council Member.
Thank you.
Stay well. The next bill, Senator Gallion, if you're okay, since you're going to be here for all of these hearings and for the voting session, I'd like to put your bills last and let some other colleagues go home.
Madam Vice Chair, could we do the one where I have one with one panelist and he's been waiting? Would you mind doing that when it's 386? Sure. That way.
Sure. All right, Senator Salling, we will take you right after that. We'll take Senator Gallion first, and then we'll go to Senator Edwards, Senator Beidel, and then we will wrap up with the other Gallion bill. Okay, Senator Gallion, on behalf of Harford County Senators, Senate Bill 386, Alcoholic Beverages, Assisted Living Program License. You've got with you Rebecca Iams and Joseph Snee. You may begin your testimony, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And you did the introduction. So this bill would allow the board to issue up to 5 Class ALP or assisted living licenses to a person, which authorizes the license holder to provide beer and wine for on-premises consumption by a resident or a guest of the resident of the assisted living program. The license authorizes the license holder to provide beer and wine for on-premises consumption by a resident or a guest of a resident of the assisted living program, store liquor that has been purchased by a resident in a secure locker that is accessible only to individuals at least 21 years old, prepare mixed drinks using liquor that has been purchased by a resident and mixers provided by the resident or license holder, and serve liquor that has been purchased by a resident or a mixed drink that is prepared using a resident's liquor to a resident or guest of a resident for on-premise consumption. There's one amendment that would lower the license cost from $5,000 to $3,500. At this time, I'd like to ask the committee for a favorable report on this Hartford bill and defer to Mr. Snee.
Thank you very much. Mr. Snee, you want to go next? Joseph
Yes,
Snee.
thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to testify. I thank our Hartford County Senators for sponsoring this bill. My name is Joseph F. Snee Jr. I practice law in Hartford County. There are approximately 200 liquor licenses active in Hartford County. In 36 years, I've had the good fortune of representing 2 of every 3 in some capacity. To my knowledge, none of the licensees in Hartford County are opposing this legislation, SB 386. Today, I represent Brightview Avondale. It's an active retirement community in Bel Air, which wants this license to allow legal service of alcohol to its residents under this new license category. As Senator Gallion indicated, they have made provisions to keep that alcohol in locked storage cabinets, which would only be accessible to employees and residents that are over the age of 21. I would point out that last year, this same bill was introduced as Senate Bill 373. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we had to adjourn and we never got it through. This is motivated by Brightview's providing residents to its citizens for brunches, lunches, dinners, afternoon socials, and happy hour. The hours of 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. are what is already on the Hartford County books. I would point out too, Madam Chair, that the average age of Brightview residents is 86 years old. And I would like to urge your support and thank Senators Gallion, Jennings, and Castley, as well as the Hartford County Liquor Control Board for their support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Snee. Is Rebecca Iams with us? Seeing she is not.
Madam Chair, she's my legal assistant, so she will not be testifying.
Got it. Okay. Well, unless I see no questions for either Mr. Snee or Senator Gallion, so that will complete the hearing on Senate Bill 386. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Mr. Snee. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Next up, we are going to take our friend and former committee colleague, Senator Salling, with Senate Bill 424, Baltimore County Alcoholic Beverages Class D Beer, Wine, and Liquor License. Following Senator Salling, we will have George Fotis from Drug City Pharmacy. And I have heard about this bill. You should know that your senator is working this bill already, followed by Jack Malani. Senator Salling, please go ahead.
I see the chairs here. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Vice Chair and Committee. For the record, I'm Senator John R. Salling, asking for your favor for Senate Bill 424. This bill will apply to a private-owned pharmacy. It does not apply to a chain. All this bill allows a private pharmacy to also have a Class D alcohol license. The constituent you will hear from today also owns a pharmacy and has a Class C license. And his 2 companies are already being run out of the same building. So what this bill would do would remove the administrative hurdles, which having 2 businesses, 2 payrolls, 2 insurances, and I think you get it, 2 of everything. This bill is supported by Baltimore County Liquor Beverage Association. It's a simple bill. It's a local bill. It's cross-filed at House Bill 555. Both the Senate and the House approved and are favorable. And I just ask you to remove this administrative hurdle with this bill, so this small business can have greater flexibility and serve the community that it does, and it serves very well. And I just asked for a favorable report. And now I'm going to ask my friend and a good community person, part of the chamber of Dundalk, Mr. George Forrest, if he could testify. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Salling. Mr. Fotis, welcome to EHE.
Hi, good afternoon. Yeah, the senator said it perfectly. I truly believe it's a common sense bill. that will remove a clause in which nobody is really quite sure of its origin or purpose. It would make operating my two businesses infinitely easier. As he mentioned, it has the full support of the Baltimore County Licensed Beverage Association, and that there has been absolutely no business or community opposition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fotis. I hoped that you were going to be testifying from within the drugstore pharmacy so that we could see it, because it sounds quaint. So
Oh, it's fantastic. I'd love to have you.
Some other time. Thank you. Mr. Milani, Jack Milani.
Jack
Add
Milani,
your
representing,
words.
yes, Baltimore County Licensed Beverage Association. We fully support the bill.
Mr. Milani, if you can work on being more concise next time, that'd be good. Thank you very much. I see no questions from colleagues. That completes the hearing on Senate Bill 424. Thank you, Senator Salling. Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you, you all too. Thank you so much. Miss you guys.
Thank you. All right, next we get to welcome our good friend from Western Maryland, Senator Edwards. You have Senate Bill 451, Garrett County Alcoholic Beverages Act of 2021, and it looks like the other witnesses are only written, so you are the one witness. Welcome, Senator Edwards. You are muted. You are muted, Senator. Senator, you'll need to unmute.
Sorry.
That's all right. Good. We're glad you're
Thank you
here.
very much. I would ask 3 other bills. Can I run through them just as quick as this one?
If only, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Senator. I've got those bill files. So after you do the one the vice chair called, we can move into 677 and 679.
Perfect. And then we'll go back to Senator Beidle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, Senate Bill 451 in Garrett County, we have what's called an issuing fee for a new license. If you get a new license, you pay an issuing fee first time equal to the cost of the license. And this bill deals with Class C club and organization license. It does away with the issuing fee, and it adds to the per diem where they can get beer, wine, or liquor, or beer, wine. They can also get liquor with that. Very simple bill. County supports it. Would ask for your support of Senate Bill 451.
Thank you, Senator Edwards. I see no questions. That completes the hearing on Senate Bill 451. The chairman has stepped away, but the birthday boy is surely coming back. There we go. Mr. Chairman, off to you.
Yeah, I apologize. 677,
Right.
Transfer and auction of licenses.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 677 deals with Allegheny County. They have a set amount of licenses per people. And a lot of times people let their license, they go out of business, so to speak, but they can keep their license as long as they operate like 72 hours a year or something like that. And there's a big value put on, and they really can't increase the licenses. So what they want to do is to be able to add 2 new licenses a year and do it by auction. And to any of these that people give up, for example, who don't renew them or want to renew them, that they can sell them. And the chair of the subcommittee suggested an amendment we have, and you should have it, where in that case, transfer of expired license, the county commissioners can't do that within 60 days. They have to wait at least 60 days after they're expired. The county supports this bill and asks for it. Would ask for your support of Senate Bill 677.
Questions for the senator? There is opposition. Mr. Wise, you want to speak to this bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I believe Senator Edwards is aware of this. I've reached out to his office and also been in contact with Delegate Buckle, who was the House sponsor. This bill does a few things that are precedents across the state. Normally, there are not auctions of licenses. Normally, the county commissioners are not issued licenses, and normally the county commissioners are not issued licenses above and beyond the population quota. So my client, the Allegheny County Licensed Beverage Association, has concerns with that. We have, however, offered an alternative that I believe has been sent back to the county by way of Delegate Buckle. We have not heard back on that, but I think it helps solve their problem without creating these precedents. So That's the status, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Wise? Seeing none, maybe it gets worked out, maybe it doesn't. Okay, Senator Edwards, your next bill, 679, annual fees for alcoholic beverage. There is no opposition on this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 679 is an Allegheny County beverage bill. There's no opposition. It's a very simple bill, so I'd ask for your support. Speed the process up here.
Any questions?
They just want to help people out this time because of the decreased sales with the epidemic, and this would give them, they just keep from paying their license for 1 year and they can keep the money, the business.
Okay. Seeing no questions, that concludes the hearing on 679.
One more,
Oh.
hopefully. 731.
Yes, sir. 731.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Senate Bill 731 deals with both Allegheny and Garrett counties, sets up a alcoholic beverage gift basket permit. It treats both counties the same, except in Garrett County, as I mentioned before, we have an issuing fee for the first time license, and that would go along with this. They would have to pay an issuing fee. In Allegheny County, they don't have it. This would apply to people who do gift baskets. They would be allowed to put liquor. They could put beer in and up to 72 ounces, 2.25 liters of wine or 2.25 liters of liquor in a gift basket. I think it spells out everything in there. You have to do certain things by law. So this is something that the people who deal with this kind of business up home wanted. Both counties agreed to it. So I would ask for your support of Senate Bill 731.
Questions for the good senator? None. Thank you, Senator. Have a great weekend.
Thank you very much. You all too. Take care.
Okay. Senator Kagan, you have the next bill?
Yep. Senator Edwards, drive safely. Next up is Senator Beidle, Senate Bill 489, Anne Arundel County Alcoholic Beverages Class MT license. You will kick us off, Senator Beidle, followed by Judy Hagner, Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, and Joseph Masher from Bowtie Cinema. Welcome, Senator Beidle.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, and Mr. Chairman, I think you're still on. Thank you for hearing the bills today. I hope you won't run too late. And happy birthday again, Chairman Pinsky.
Thank you.
Senate Bill 489 adds a Class MT license to the Anne Arundel County choice of licenses. It is for movie theaters. You'll hear from Mr. Masher from Bowtie that he has a current license. It is a restaurant license. It's something that a prior liquor board issued when we didn't have a movie theater license, but we are trying to make things right. So the movie theater license would, allow service in a movie theater, 2 drinks per person, 1 at a time. They can't leave the movie theater with it, but they can take it into the actual viewing theater. It's just matches what a lot of other counties are doing with movie theater license. And the chairman of our subcommittee there on your committee knows the details, but these amendments match what the House has done. The House delegation has already voted out the movie theater license bill, and we're requesting the same amendments so that we can match it to the delegation bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Senator Beidle. I just want to clarify, you said that that's an MT license, right?
Yes.
So I wonder what happens when someone's drink is MT. Oh. Okay, it's Friday. We're allowed.
I know.
Judy
You're
Hagner.
fun.
Sorry. Judy Hagner, welcome to EHE. If you can unmute, we'd love to hear your testimony.
Thank you, Vice Chair. My name is Judy Hagner. I'm the Executive Director with the Anne Arundel County Liquor Board. The board is in favor of this license, just as it's been written and amended.
Beautiful. Thank you for your concise testimony. Joseph Masher with Bowtie Cinemas. Mr. Masher. Senator Beidle, do we think he's here but not unmuted? I'm not seeing him yet. He submitted written testimony, so I think we have access to that, and there is no opposition, so I think we're probably good with moving forward. If he arrives in the middle of the next bill, I will take him afterwards. And if not, then we will consider that bill having been heard, sorry. Mr. Chairman, do you have other bills or should we go to Senator Gallion? I have Senate Bill 390.
I have another one for Senator Beidle.
Great, perfect.
So we're going to have her continue.
Perfect.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll try to be brief again. Senate Bill 490 actually adds a full-time chief inspector to our employees for the Anne Arundel County Liquor Board. We are one of the few major counties that does not have a full-time chief inspector. Our chief inspector has 20 liquor board inspectors that work for him. He's just really, really busy training. I'm going on calls with him. With COVID, of course, it's added additional pressure. You heard earlier today about the issues with carryout liquor, maybe hasn't had the kind of inspection and enforcement that it needs. The current chief inspector, Mr. Harris, does a terrific job. There's a little difference between this bill and our delegation bill. The delegation set a salary at $30,000. I'm requesting an amendment that I've sent to your committee, just using the NR schedule that the current liquor board in Anne Arundel County uses, requesting that he be an NR 05, which sets his salary beginning at $30,789, going as high as $52,319. So I ask for a favorable report, adding a full-time liquor inspector in a busy county. Thank you. I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Senator. We'll go to your two witnesses, and hopefully you'll take your amended bill back to the delegation and get confirmation. Wayne Harris, followed by Judy Hagner.
Thank you. My name is Wayne Harris. I've been with the Anne Arundel County Liquor Board 16 years. I've been chief for the last 2, a little over a year actually. And I'm here basically because when I took over the job, I realized that a part-time chief working 5 hours a week was not going to be adequate in order to fulfill the duties of a chief and also to train, supervise, and manage 20 part-time inspectors. Like the senator said, our 5 largest counties all have full-time chief inspectors. I described the duties in the job description in a 3-page that was sent down, and I believe it pretty much covers everything. We're doing a lot of work with the other departments in Anne Arundel County, including the fire marshal's office, inspections and permits, and so forth. And with the increase in the amount of licenses that we've picked up and we plan on getting, especially between last year and this year, I can just see the duties, becoming even more involved. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Ms. Hagner.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And happy birthday to you, sir.
Thank you.
The board is in full support for the Senate Bill 490. We agree with the amendment that Senator Beidle put in. And I can tell you personally that Mr. Harris has worked an additional 2,000 hours since he took over as chief that we cannot pay him. I did a survey for the 5 largest counties surrounding us. They all have full-time chief inspectors as well as full-time inspectors. Their salaries range anywhere from $90,000 to $145,000 a year with full benefits. So I think to be able to get Mr. Harris at this salary is a real bargain, and we desperately need him. Thank you. If anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
There is no opposition to the bill. We'll just await a letter from the delegation. Seeing no questions, that completes the hearing on 490. Thank both of you for your patience.
Thank you.
Senator Beidle, so, Mr. Chairman, I just want Senator Beidle to know that I just checked again. Mr. Masher is not here, so I just want to officially wrap up and complete the hearing on Senate Bill 489.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Thank you. We're going to shift a little bit. We're going to go to Senator Young. He's got 693, 694, and 791. I believe he's the only witness on each bill. Senator Young, welcome back to EHE.
Thank you, Chairman Pinsky. I actually have 5 bills and I can do them all in 3 minutes if you want.
That's fine. I got to keep going through my file, but let's start with the stadium license 693.
Okay. Well, first off, all 5 bills were approved by our alcohol
Commission, and we're passed unanimously 8-0 by our delegation. And you have the letters for all 5 bills from Senator Huff and I. The first bill, Senate 693, is just a cleanup bill. As your vice chair knows, we passed a styrofoam bill last year, and we're just removing styrofoam from what drinks can be served in at our stadium. That's
Okay. Thank you. Anybody have a question? I don't see any. Next, 694.
Senate 694. In our barbershops and beauty salons, we're allowed to serve 5 ounces of wine and 5 ounces of beer. The beer has become a problem because they're doing like half bottles and wasting it. So the alcohol board recommended that they can serve 1 5-ounce glass of wine or 1 12-ounce beer.
Questions for the senator? Drink enough, you won't mind if your haircut is a little off center.
Yes.
Okay, seeing no further questions, that concludes the hearing on 694. 791, Senator.
791. During the pandemic, our restaurants have been allowed to sell alcohol drinks to go in sealed containers if food is ordered, and they are asking to make this permanent. Everyone still has to follow all the same laws, checking identities, whatever, and it can either be with a to-go dinner or it can be delivered, and it can only be delivered from an employee of the restaurant to someone in Frederick County, not to another alcohol place licensed where they serve alcohol.
Questions on that bill? Seeing none. I'm sorry, Senator Simon Ayer, I apologize.
Yeah, just real briefly, Senator, there is a statewide bill that's almost identical to this.
Yeah.
That goes into effect. Do you want this bill still?
If it goes into effect, you can forget our bill.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for catching that,
Okay.
the subcommittee chair. Thank you. Okay, Bill, Senator Young.
Next is Senate Bill 792, and this is alcoholic beverages by volume wine. Pretty standard quantity or percentage of wine is now 22%, and this bill just merely changes it that wine contained 22% alcohol.
Questions for the senator on 792? Thank you. Let's go to 793.
Thank you. Senate Bill 793. This was fashioned after a bill from Montgomery County. It allows a liquor store to serve by the drink for tasting. And it can be a total of 6 ounces of wine or 12 ounces of beer or 0.5 total ounces of liquor, which can be in a mixed drink. On page 3 of the bill, I think they left the word "or" off after 12 ounces of wine. In other words, they can't have all 3. They can either have 12 ounces of wine, 12 ounces of beer, 6 ounces of wine, or 0.5 ounces of liquor. And it can only be served on premises, and it's basically a tasting situation. That's it.
Questions for the good senator? I'm sorry, Senator Simon Ayer again.
Yeah, just real briefly again. I think the language is okay because there's 3 items and it's that, or that. But we'll have legal counsel check that. One other thing I noticed in here, it says that there's no public hearing requirement. Can you just clarify that a little?
Yeah, the liquor board just said they're already liquor stores. They've already gone through the public process, and they're not requiring a separate public hearing for this.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, further questions for Senator Young? Seeing none, thank you, Senator Young. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Senator Gallion, you want to do 390?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon again. For the record, Senator Jason Gallion here to introduce Senate Bill 390, Hartford County Gift Basket Permit. This bill would allow the Hartford County Liquor Board to issue a gift basket permit to flower shops in Hartford County. The permit would allow flower shops to sell and deliver alcohol in gift baskets. This is modeled after similar legislation that passed for Anne Arundel County last year. Currently, national websites such as 1-800-Flowers offer these type of baskets, and those orders are filled by local flower shops. Flower shops in Hartford County are unable to fill these orders at this time. For the delivery process, the person receiving the delivery of a gift basket with alcohol must show proof they are 21. If not, it would be taken back to the shop and someone of age would need to come pick it up. The alcohol in these gift baskets would need to be purchased from a retail license holder and cannot be more than 72 ounces of beer, 2.25 liters of wine, or 2.25 liters of liquor. This bill would allow these small businesses to have a wider variety of products to sell and be able to fill orders from national websites such as previously mentioned. There are two amendments. The first one would add an alcohol awareness training component, and the second amendment would change the sponsor from myself to Hartford County senators. I respectfully ask for a favorable vote on SB 390.
Thank you, Senator Gallion. Questions for the good senator? I'm not seeing any. Thank you, Senator Gallion, for that. Senator Carrozza, how about we go to you, 715?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I am bringing Senate Bill 715. It's a local Wycomico bill, and what it does, it repeals the requirement that a certain golf course have average daily receipts from the sale of food that exceeds the average daily receipts from the sale of alcoholic beverages. In addition, the bill would extend alcohol sales in Wycomico County to holders of Class A beer, wine, and liquor licenses to allow sales on Sunday. So the two parts of the bill, it's a local request. It is supported by the Wycomico County Council, and there is a letter in the file. And basically the first part regarding the golf courses would allow guests to enjoy an alcoholic beverage before, after, or during a round of golf without eating an entire meal at the golf course. As our local Board of Licensees commissioners noted, that most golf courses are not destinations for dining, and dining is secondary to playing the round of golf. The second part of the bill and the amendment is with the committee as well, extends the Liquor Control Board from 6 to 7 days, allowing for alcohol sales on Sundays to, again, a holder of a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license. This would, Mr. Chair, level the playing field for private businesses and provide some consistency with our surrounding Maryland counties, which all have Sunday sales, as well as Delaware, which borders Wycomico County. The local bill is supported by the Wycomico County Council. There is a letter in the file, and I ask for a favorable report.
Thank you, Senator Carrozza. You did say golf was primary over dining. Was that also on imbibing?
Was that also?
Any questions for the Eastern Shore Senator? Seeing none and no opposition, that completes that hearing. Let's go to 739, Senator Rosapep on BLX licenses. Also with him are Steve Jennings and Senator.
Yeah, thank you very, very much. Simple bill. It applies to only one location in the city of College Park, literally on the University of Maryland campus, property that they own next to the new hotel we have that Senator Pinsky knows very well and Senator Patterson knows. It's a new great restaurant that has entertainment. And so all this bill does is allow them to have folks in there, a few entertainment events who are under 21 after 9 p.m. It's subject to very stringent requirements with their lease with the University of Maryland, as well as consultation with the city on an ongoing basis in the university, supported by the city, supported by the university, and endorsed last night by the Prince George's delegation.
in the nick of time. Okay, there's no opposition, so I'm sure Mr. Jennings, who comes from the hall, and Mr. Olson can speak to it briefly.
Thank you, Chair Pinsky. Can I go now?
Sure.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I can't add a whole lot to what Senator Rosapep mentioned, but the College Park City University Partnership, whose members are the city and the university, supports SB 739. This benefits the goals of making College Park a more thriving center, a job center, and a place to live, arts, culture, and entertainment, and is a very narrow bill. It has support, and we've worked very closely together, and it also has ensures underage patrons will not have access to alcohol beverages, and we're in full support.
Thank you. Mr. Jennings, welcome.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. In the interest of time, I'll be brief based on the comments that I've heard previously. I'm sorry. This is Steve Jennings with Warhorse Cities. We were invited several years ago by the University of Maryland to develop this concept based on similar concepts we've done in Baltimore and San Francisco. The venue is designed to host a variety of events, many of which will run past 9 o'clock and include patrons under the age of 21. Some examples would be weddings, family reunions, birthday or graduation parties, corporate events, sports banquets, class reunions, book signings, musical, artistic, or theatrical performances or charity events. And the university is expected to be a significant user of our facility as well. And as mentioned by both Senator Rosapep and Mr. Olson, our agreement with the University of Maryland and the College Park City University Partnership involves numerous clauses related to this use. One important one of those is security. And we've worked with the University Police Department to develop an extensive security plan that varies depending on the type of event and anticipated audience. We've got a video surveillance system, including 26 digital cameras designed in conjunction with the police, an ID scanner system, in addition to many other security protocols that are designed around the prevention of underage drinking. We share our entertainment calendar monthly in advance to the University of Maryland, the Police Department, and the City University Partnership. We've worked extensively with them leading up to this point to maintain a healthy community venue. And we meet every 6 months with that same group to review reports, security plans, and assist in improving plans for the community-oriented events.
Great.
For all these reasons, we support the proposed legislation, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings, and we wish good luck. Hopefully you've gotten through the last 8 months okay. Warm weather's coming. So
we're getting there. Thank you.
Outside. Questions for Senator Rosapep or the advocates? Seeing none.
Just saying.
Thank you for your patience.
Quick hello to Councilmember Olson. Nice to see you.
Thanks, Senator. Great seeing you.
Thank you. Senator Hayes, are you with us?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
This is 755 in your scorecard, 40th District.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'll be briefly Senator Antonio Hayes for the record. This bill, the majority of it is really a public safety bill, and I've been joined by Baltimore City Police Department Chief of Patrol, Colonel Worley. My district expands, vast parts of Baltimore City, including 6 police districts and 6 different city council districts. We're targeting, the bill is introduced, put a limit on licensees in the entire district. We've submitted some amendments to focus on 3 areas, and that's really based on concentrated levels of high violence around homicides and shootings. One in the Park Heights community, in the Northwest District Police Department, one along North Avenue in the Western District, and the third being further south in the Southern District. In addition to limiting these hours from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., we've also added 2 additional licenses, one being a C license and one is a restricted BD7 license. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is Mr. Worley with us?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Chief Worley.
Yes,
Chief,
I'm here.
please.
Good afternoon. Happy birthday, sir.
I will be
Thank
very
you.
brief. We're here
Very
to
kind.
support Senate Bill 755. That 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. hour is the most violent time in our city. We've had multiple shootings, and a lot of them are surrounded around these liquor establishments that draw crowds at this time. And basically, we've been working together on this bill, modifying it to the best and the fairest bill that we can come up with. And those timeframes are the best. And so we're here to support it. And thank you.
Thank you. Questions for the sponsor, Senator Hayes or Chief Worley? Seeing none and no opposition, that completes that hearing. Senator McCray, I'm going to take Senator Hershey. He has two quick ones, then we're going to get to your two. So just be patient and hang with us. Senator Hershey, if you're still with us, we'll do 854 and 855.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you and happy birthday. For the record, Senator Steve Hershey to present Senate Bill 854, which is a local bill that increases the time frame for the county alcoholic beverage inspector to inspect licensed premises from once every 60 days to at least once every 180 days. There are letters of support from the county delegation and the county commissioners. Ask for favorable report for Senate Bill 854.
Thanks, Steve. Is Mr. Moran with us?
Yes, sir. And Senator Hershey said it all, so I don't need to really reiterate anything more than that.
You're wonderful and succinct. Thank you. Seeing no questions and no opposition, that completes that hearing. Senator Hershey, next bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Senator Steve Hershey presents Senate Bill 855, is a local bill which removes a prohibition on Queen Anne's County Board of License Commissioners from issuing an alcoholic beverage license to an establishment located within 500 feet of a place of worship. The county feels this is necessary to allow churches, fire halls, and other nonprofit groups the ability to obtain one-day licenses to provide alcohol at fundraisers style events. There are letters of support from the county delegation, and the county commissioners are asked for favorable report on Senate Bill 855.
Senator Hershey, if your other bills were as simple as these, we'd be passing a whole lot more.
A whole lot of Hershey bills. Thank you.
Mr. Moran?
Once again, he's hit the nail on the head. And also just basically, this is a house cleaning. In the past, these churches were doing these fundraisers and we were out of compliance. And that's what this is, just to clean it up.
Thank you. Come back again. We love your testimony and brevity. Okay, that completes the hearing on that bill.
Thank you very much.
Few bills. Committee, we probably are not going to get the vote today. We might not be able to do a hard stop at 5. It might be a few minutes after. I know people have other events, but we need to get these last 4 or 5 bills. That being said, we're going to go to Senator McCray. We're going to do 547, Senator McCray. 45th District BD 7 license. There's no opposition. You'll be followed by Joshua Greenfield and Alex Champagne. Senator McCray, you're on.
Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the committee, I'll start like everybody else started. Happy birthday. Just wanted to discuss, we got a vibrant business on the Hartford Road corridor that was just looking to get a liquor license. I'll let them do more talking, but they are also supported by the community. For the record, Corey McCray, Senate Bill 547.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Greenfield?
Good afternoon, Chairman Pinsky. Happy birthday, Josh Greenfield.
Enough.
On behalf of Property Consulting, Inc., we're the owner of the property. We just built this brand new mixed-use building. It's the first new construction mixed-use project in the Northeast Baltimore Hartford Road corridor in decades. We're super excited. We've been working with the community on this liquor license, which they do support. You should have a letter of support in your packet. We plan to hold this property for quite a long time and be good stewards of the license. I'll turn it over to Alex Champagne, who is the owner of the restaurant Fire and Rice and will be the ultimate licensee. Thank you very much.
Mr. Champagne, you're on.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alex Champagne, one of the owners of Fire and Rice, a sushi and Japanese-inspired restaurant here in Northeast Baltimore. I'm also a resident and parent here in the neighborhood our business resides. Here today in support of Bill 547 to create a new liquor license for our space here at 4801 Hartford Road. Due to COVID-19, Fire and Rice was unable to open last spring in our original location. We are lucky enough to find home in a smaller space and focus on carryout and delivery, while indoor dining does not logistically work for us at the moment. As we look forward to being able to offer dining in later this year, this liquor license will help us secure some financial stability in a very unstable industry and help us realize our original concept. We've already heard a lot of other speakers today bring up points on how crucial being able to add liquor sales to restaurants' income is. We have met with our local neighborhood association about the usage of this license, and I think we see eye to eye, and I believe we have included a letter from them in support of this.
Great. Questions for Senator McCray or his supporters? Senator Kagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to mention that it was a good thing that Mr. Champagne wasn't here to whine about his bill.
I heard that coming.
Sorry, had to do it.
Other questions or quips? Seeing none, that concludes the hearing on that bill. Now we get to 763. Senator McCray, this is the hot button of the day, I believe. You bring him out of the woodwork for this one, as we know so well. Senator McCray will explain his bill. He'll be followed by Marshall Klein, Shoshana Goldberg, Cheryl Washington, and Michael Wilson. They will be followed by Dan Hoos, Kathleen Hoke, Jack Malani, and Remy Eck. So Senator, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the committee. For the record, Senator 45th Legislative District, and I'm speaking today about Senate Bill 763. Senate Bill 763 is a carefully crafted bill that still takes in consideration our historical partners, but are also creating a creative opportunity for issue that plagues many of our communities in urban jurisdictions and rural jurisdictions. It's important to note that 47 other states already do what we're attempting to do at this moment by just placing beer and wine in our grocery stores or those that would like to serve healthy food options. This will be limited to just priority funding areas. So it will be one time, again, limited to priority funding areas. We're asking that there be a charge of a $2,500 fee in order to do this, and $2,500 for the renewal that would go specifically to the neighborhood NeighborWorks program within DHCD to address food desert issues. We're also, I think that it's important to recognize why I care so deeply about these issues. As you all already know from a previous bill that I've had, that the groceries, we just don't have them in a lot of the neighborhoods that I represent, whether it's Oliver, Berea, South Clifton Park, Dolly Park. We actually just saw one close about 2-3 months ago, a Save-A-Lot closed within the Oliver community, a place where we could just have fruit, vegetables, uncooked meat, dairy, and that's what we're just asking for. So if it's not a grocery store, we have 5 triggers that have to be met out of the 6. And those triggers are for it to have fruit, vegetables, water, things of that nature. We're also saying that that store has to occupy at least 50% if it's not already a grocery store of those specific things. I think about zip codes, Mr. Chair, and I think about from a zip code, if you live in certain zip codes in the city, that could put 10 more years on your life. We know that this could be because of crime. We know that this could be because of lack of recreational opportunities. We know that this could be because of a lack of trees and the air we breathe within those specific neighborhoods, but it's also health that takes some form of a component within these decisions in those zip codes. Today, we have here a grocer, Marshall Klein. We also have a director and a CEO of one of the largest development projects in the state of Maryland at this time. And we also have a constituent, a patron, to express the importance. And I thank you again, Mr. Chair, and I hope that I was short with my comments.
No, that was great. Thank you, Senator. I believe I had first Marshall Klein, I think is your leadoff witness. Mr. Klein.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senators. Thank you, Senator McCray. My name is Marshall Klein. I'm one of the owners of Klein ShopRite of Maryland. We own and operate 9 grocery stores throughout Hartford County, Baltimore County, and Baltimore City. We also own and operate a liquor store in Aberdeen, Maryland. So we are kind of on both sides of this issue. I think first it's really important to understand the stress that operating grocery stores in areas that are food desert or just grocery stores in general have in the state. As Senator McCray points out, the cost of operation in these areas are significantly higher than in suburban location. And it's no one's fault, really. But we've operated one store in Northwest Baltimore for now 8 years. I have a ton of experience operating within food desert areas, and the cost of operation of the store are significantly higher because mostly certain regulations that we face, but also the transactional cost. When you're in an urban environment, the number of transactions you have in the store are very high just because people shop more frequently, and the baskets are very low. And that's a very inefficient way to deliver groceries in general. And because that cost is significantly higher, it puts tremendous pressures on the profit margin in an already low profit business. This kind of bill would add an ancillary way for us to address shortfalls that we have in a way that doesn't drive additional prices to the consumers, many of which have the least ability to pay in these areas. I've testified on this in other areas, and I know there's a lot of concern about, how are you helping communities by adding one more, beer and wine option in communities that have historically been, I don't want to say plagued, but have a lot of those kind of options. And I would argue that this actually makes those communities safer. In our store, we have a tremendous amount of foot traffic. We are a safe, clean environment. And for someone to be able to get beer and wine, not having to go to some corner store, not having to go to areas where there's a tremendous amount of loitering and perhaps illicit drug use, where there's violence, where there's all these other things that the community is very concerned about, it puts pressure on those operators to either clean up their act, clean up their business, or have the community to be able to have the same sort of standard and the same kind of offerings that everyone in suburban locations just takes for granted. It also helps us to be more viable in the community. I think it would do a tremendous amount to help spur grocery investment in both Baltimore City and rural areas that currently struggle to get operators to come and stay. If we have to come up with capital investment opportunities for our business, and like everyone else, we're making decisions. And you're always going to make a decision for an area that has the least amount of risk and the most amount of reward. And unfortunately, based on the challenges that you face in areas that are very food insecure, through no fault of the community, those choices for many companies are not to open and not to invest in those communities. And this would provide a very, I believe, strategic and nuanced way to provide an added incentive to address the issues of food insecurity in the state and in particularly in Baltimore.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Ms. Goldberg?
Hi, thank you for having me today. My name is Shoshana Goldberg. I'm a wife, a mother of 2 very active boys. I have 2 dogs, and I work full-time as a financial consultant for Goldman Sachs. If that doesn't keep me busy enough, I'm also an Orthodox Jew living in Pikesville. Between 2 kids in 2 different schools, their extracurricular activities, my work obligations, life is really busy. While many of you may feel like you can relate to my hectic life, maintaining my kosher observance is yet another level of stress and activity. As an Orthodox Jew, Saturdays are our Sabbath. On Saturdays, we don't drive or ride in cars, we don't go shopping, we don't use money or even use electronics. Additionally, we sanctify the Sabbath every week by saying a special prayer over kosher wine. I regularly have to visit multiple grocery stores to find everything I need for my family because there is no good one-stop shop when it comes to kosher food. I frequently shop on Sundays because I'm prohibited from doing so on Saturday. As you may already know, Baltimore County does not allow Sunday liquor sales. In order to maintain my religious observance, I have to make an extra stop during the week at the liquor store, exactly when I have no time. With such a packed life, convenience is not just nice to have. I grew up in Alabama where wine and beer were sold everywhere. Upon moving to Maryland, I was shocked to discover that I had to make a special trip to buy kosher wine. Each extra errand in my life has to be squeezed in between so many other things: school drop-off and pickup, soccer and baseball games, conference calls, and client meetings. It's so much to juggle that any bit of convenience to my life makes a huge difference. I don't just want to be able to shop for my kosher wine with my groceries, my sanity needs it. Please consider my community's needs when debating Senate Bill 763 and make a difference in this busy mom's life by making it law.
Thank you, Ms. Goldberg. Ms. Washington?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity today. My name is Cheryl Washington. I'm the president and CEO of East Baltimore Development Incorporated, or EBDI for short. EBDI operates within Maryland Legislative District 45. We are proud to have Senator McCray represent us. And EBDI is the nonprofit that was established in 2003 to stabilize and revitalize an 88-acre community in East Baltimore. EBDI has a charge to execute an ambitious plan to transform the neighborhood into a healthier, thriving community now called Eager Park. To that end, I am eager to voice my support for Senate Bill 763. Community development is a cornerstone of our work at EBDI, and we operate within a range of core values to ensure that everything that we do provides a direct benefit to the community. I started my tenure at EBDI working directly with the families who were being impacted by this revitalization effort, and I also ran our workforce development program for several years. I witnessed firsthand the plight that East Baltimore residents faced trying to access fresh, nutritious food, stable housing, and jobs. I also have witnessed over time how economic development activities can lead to more businesses, a stronger workforce, and a more vibrant community. This has spurred my commitment to support bills like Senate Bill 763 that promote economic development in divested and disinvested communities like East Baltimore. There are two main reasons that I am in support of this bill. The first is that it will strengthen the local economy by requiring annual fees related to retail alcoholic beverage licenses to be distributed to the Community Legacy Financial Assistance Fund, which supports economic development activities. This additional financial support will complement EBDI's efforts in the areas of business attraction, retention, and expansion, job creation, and increasing home ownership. The second reason is that the bill will require qualifying businesses to provide Maryland residents and consumers additional access to fresh, healthy food. This will reduce the food insecurity present in Eager Park and our surrounding communities, particularly as Senator McCray mentioned, the last grocery store in our neighborhood closed its doors last year. Senate Bill 763 would incentivize grocers to locate in disinvested communities like East Baltimore and address the food insecurity residents are facing every day. In closing, I believe Senate Bill 763 will provide another avenue for Maryland businesses to contribute to the economy and will increase access to healthy foods in neighborhoods like those found in East Baltimore. For these reasons, I hope that you will issue a favorable report for Senate Bill 763, and thank you again for your opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Washington. Mr. Wilson.
Good afternoon, Mike Wilson. Here on behalf of the over 25,000 members of the United Food and Commercial Workers, Local 427 in Maryland. We've been working on the front lines of the ongoing pandemic in grocery, retail, food distribution, food processing, law enforcement, and healthcare. We strongly support SB 763 and urge you to vote it favorably. This bill will be a revenue generator for the state at a time when Maryland needs it and will create hundreds of new, well-paid, family-supporting union jobs. Our economy needs a boost, and expanding beer and wine sales to chain grocery stores like Giant, Safeway, and Shoppers, where our members work, will help drive a much-needed recovery and keep Maryland in a strong economic position going forward. This bill provides a real opportunity for the state to create up to 300 full-time jobs for our members at existing stores, as well as the potential to create new stores in food deserts that could create 200 family-sustaining jobs each and become anchors for their communities. These will be union jobs with family-sustaining wages and benefits that will increase our tax base and strengthen our communities and our state for the long term. It's time for Maryland to join neighboring states and the District of Columbia in allowing beer and wine sales in chain grocery stores. It will continue our economic recovery, generate revenue, and most importantly, employ hundreds of residents in good family-sustaining jobs. Both UFCW Local 27 and Local 400 urge a favorable vote on Senate Bill 763. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. We're going to go to questions. Let me start off with one. Mr. Klein, what is your estimate as to how much additional revenue, either direct sales of alcohol or attracting more walk-in traffic, will bring in for each location that you situate in the food desert? What is the projected additional revenue?
I think that varies tremendously based on the overall volume of the store, but I think in a traditional grocery store, I think that the additional revenue could be anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000 weekly. I think that is probably
weekly,
a pretty conservative number. But if it's a high volume store, it could be significantly more than that. If it's a lower volume, small store, it could be $5,000 to $10,000. But if I had to ballpark, that's what I would say it would probably be.
So let me ask this as a follow-up. Obviously, this issue raised a lot of controversy as to where alcohol is sold and will it pull from retail package stores where most people live in Maryland. And obviously, it won't just be locally owned supermarkets. It could be a Giant or a Safeway where they send their profits elsewhere out of state. I guess my question to you is, if the city of Baltimore, for example, were willing to write you a check as an incentive to come to a food desert for whatever, $1 million or 1.2, whatever the projected revenue would have been from alcohol sales, would that suffice in coming to a food desert where, as Senator McCray said, a lot of people aren't getting fresh vegetables and having foods, and they're having to go to a bodega that might be overpriced and not have as many options. So my question to you is, if we could avoid this battle over who sells alcohol, but someone actually gave you a check as an incentive, what's your reaction?
I mean, that would be better than the current situation, certainly. If there was a situation where governments were willing to pay retail food operators to operate in food deserts, that certainly would help. From a business practicality standpoint, I would always worry. I mean, having opened the store, we had a lot of great expectations. It's been very, very challenging. That it's like the money sounds like a lot. 3-4 years in, if it's not enough, we're a family business. When we opened the store in Baltimore City, that was a $20 million investment. It was the largest investment my family has ever made in any store we've ever opened. It was $13 million in the building and $7 million in the equipment. $1 million is great, and I would love it. And certainly we could use it to help sustain our operations in the city. But I would much rather be sustainable through my operations than just a check. That's my honest answer. I mean,
that's fine.
If it's ongoing, great, but I'm sure that constituents would not want to pay private businesses to operate in food deserts. Just
right. But again, if
money's money. I mean, money's money. Whether it's from beer and wine sales, which would drive other traffic to the store, I'm sure a number could be come up with. Honestly, that could alleviate it. They could.
Okay, thank you, Senator Ellis.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for bringing this bill, Senator McCray. I hear. I've been following this issue for a little while, and I hear the proponents saying that this bill, if become law, will bring in additional revenues. So I'm not sure how would additional revenues be generated if you just change the mix of locations where these additional alcohol products can be sold. I'm not sure who could best answer that.
One of you can take a shot at it.
I'll step in.
Go ahead, Senator.
Yep, I don't want to say that extra revenues would, from a standpoint of that, but I don't think that it would not have an adverse effect on those establishments that already exist to that degree. I think that, especially in the city, Senator Ellis, one of the challenges is that we have, let's take from North Avenue within a 1 mile radius, we have 23 locations of alcohol right there already, but you can't get a banana or pear or vegetables and things of that nature unless you go and drive 10 or 15 minutes outside of that respective radius. So that's what our focus has always been. We have those outlets there, but we need the fresh food opportunities. And I think that this is a creative way to move into that direction, especially for those neighborhoods that's crying for help and no one's helping them at this moment.
Yeah. Right, but Senator McCray, if I could, I think what Senator Ellis is asking is either it'll take business from other retail stores and it'll be the exact same amount of revenue total, or else it's going to expand the sales of alcohol in the community. Senator Ellis, did I capture that right?
Yes, sir. And exactly. And I did hear someone say additional revenues, and this will give incentives to have more bananas along with more Budweisers. Well, they didn't say the Budweiser part. I shouldn't. But I heard bananas.
I don't want to speak for Mr. Klein, but I think that he was basically saying, like, if you're in the store and you're purchasing something in general, obviously you're already there from a convenience standpoint. There is a benefit from that piece of it. I don't want to speak for him, but I think that there is some value in that piece of it because you were already there anyway, or it may drive traffic into the specific store to spend money on other things too. So
yeah. But I did hear someone say additional revenues. Was that you, Mr. Klein? Someone said this will generate additional revenues for Maryland and for the stores.
That was me, Mike Wilson. Good to see you with the UFCW 400. And yeah, no, what I was referring to with that is two things. I think there will be initial revenue, which is part of the idea to create the incentive to bring people into underserved communities. But they will have to, purchase these licenses, which I think is kind of the opposite of what, Senator Pinsky was talking about. Is this would actually create a situation where, because the businesses know they're going to make $10,000 to $15,000, as Mr. Klein was saying, potentially a week off sales, that the state could recoup some of that money to use it to draw, even more people into these areas. So there's that part of the revenue side, and then from our perspective too. If we know that when there is alcohol sales added to existing stores, but also when more stores are open, especially when there are union stores like Giant, Safeway, and Shoppers, who we represent the employees at, that those are well-paying and family-sustaining jobs that will add to the tax base over time as well.
Yeah. Okay. I apologize. I didn't comment on the license fee.
Hold it, Senator Ellis.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out where the additional revenues will come from. So, I think Wilson, you said just from the fees, but you expect it to be a zero-sum game or zero-sum. You won't have additional consumption of alcohol. You just have more fees, and this business will be spread out from the mom and pop neighborhood stores, liquor stores now, to the say the supermarkets, the Giant, the Safeway, to maybe the gas station, Dash In, whatever. Is that
right? But I just want to clarify the fee license $2,500. If you get 10 supermarkets, that's $25,000. That doesn't go real far. But Senator Ellis, I'm not sure you're going to get much more of an answer. You can keep trying, but
yeah. Well, they it was set additional revenues, and of course, the supermarkets would love to have this because it's will be a profit center for them. But my philosophy is, you shouldn't have, we do a bad job in taking care of our minority citizens and our poor citizens in this country, in Maryland. It shouldn't be a choice between a beer for dad and a banana for little Susie. It shouldn't be that choice. And, I understand the passion of the Baltimore senator presenting this bill. You're passionate, you fight for your constituents. Bill went through about, I understand the issue, but I'm trying to understand where the additional revenues will come from.
Senator, I'm going to, so hard stop at 5 o'clock.
I'm sorry.
When the bill comes before us, we can debate it. And, we have 4 more bills, and I know some people have some responsibility. So I want to respect that. Senator Simon.
Thank you.
Sorry, Senator Ellis.
Thank you, and I will try to make this real quick. There's 2 main policies. There's the food desert, and then there's a shifting of the alcohol sales. I actually listened to the House hearing, and I believe the extra revenues come from extra sales and extra consumption. And then there's also a shift of revenues between the 2 entities. But my question I want to just hone in on and get your response to, there is a permissive, the board may issue license, and then there's the board shall issue a license. And the where it says they have to do that is in priority funding areas. And when I look at the definition, it says all municipalities inside the Baltimore Beltway, inside the Washington Beltway, enterprise zones, neighborhood revitalization zone, heritage areas, some certain industrial. That seems very expansive. And when you take the local control of whether they think that is good for the community, I'm just wondering why that's a mandate.
First, I'd like to start by saying that we're open to mayor shall. We debated that a good bit just internally, to be honest with you, Senator Simon. What our thinking was behind that was that if they were offering, and that this is a food desert, so this is only priority funding areas. I know that you named a number of different things, but it's only priority funding areas. That if they were going into priority funding areas, places that lack food anyway, they were also, if they hit those 5 triggers out of 6, or they were a grocery store that we didn't have food, that we should have them, and they've already went through the process from that standpoint. They've done the zoning and everything that from that nature, that we need to make sure that we're very supportive of it. So we wrestled with may or shall, but I'm open to what the posture of the committee sees fit. But that was that was the context of the debate that was going on internally.
Gotcha. Thank you. You're muted, Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Senator McCray, let me point out earlier today, we voted out your other bill about increasing the amount of money that can go to operations, retail operations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No, my point is there's a relationship between that earlier bill and potentially this bill that may be one that we might want to pursue at some point offline.
Yep.
Okay, let's go to opposition. We have Dan Hughes, Kathleen Hoke, Jack Malani, and Remy Eck. And again, I don't mean to cut you off, but it's late, it's a Friday. My committee's worked very hard, so please be succinct.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Dan Hughes here, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify here today. I am the general manager of Bob Hall LLC, located in Upper Marlboro in Prince George's County. We are a local family-owned beverage wholesaler employing 115 people and sell beer to almost 1,000 different local retail businesses in Prince George's, Charles, and Calvert counties, and have been proudly doing so since 1933. Cornerstones of our business are responsibility, charity, and the environment, and we work hard to be part of the fabric of the community. We stand to oppose Senate Bill 763. Most wholesalers and our independent retailers are local family-run businesses who work hard to be a positive force in the community, employ over 1,400 people throughout the state, and are part of the landscape that make up our neighborhoods and local business communities. I am here today to shed some light on how the licensing of chains would negatively impact these many local family businesses that make a living selling alcohol responsibly. For us on the wholesaler level, an increase in stores does not necessarily mean an increase in business, quite the opposite. Volume is redistributed among stores, leading to an increase in the number of deliveries, yet with smaller delivery sizes. We would also experience a massive change on how we would need to service the market. We would have to make significant investments to address the demanding service needs of these chain stores, and as a result, look internally at how we would have to adjust, and that could mean possible job loss. Bob Hall, in its entire history, has never laid off an employee since its humble beginnings, and even during the pandemic, we kept people working, and we do not want to start that now. Speaking of jobs, a question we need to consider is, will this bring an increase in overall jobs by allowing alcohol in chain stores, or will the responsibilities just be added to current employees? When we think of revenue, some will stay within the state, but much of it will leave Maryland, benefiting some other state where the chain headquarters is located. On the consumer side of things, our local retailers provide personalized service, as well as a huge variety of products, many of those products made locally here in the state. Product selection at chain stores tend to be limited and does not compare to the local independent stores. It has been documented that in other states, when chains are introduced, local mom and pop businesses simply cannot compete and are negatively affected. Oftentimes, these stores are located within the same shopping centers as these chains that we're talking about. Lastly, we talk about responsibility. Wholesalers, along with retailers, sell and promote our products to be enjoyed responsibly. Oftentimes, we are the gatekeepers to ensure underage consumers do not have access to alcohol and comply with state law. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the committee, Please say no to Senate Bill 763 and say yes to local family businesses who have invested so much in the community and to supporting local jobs for Marylanders throughout the state. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hoos. Ms. Hoag.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Happy birthday. Members of the committee, happy Friday. I'm Kathy Hoke. I'm a professor at the University of Maryland Carey School of Law, here today in opposition to Senate Bill 763, fundamentally because I think, as the chair pointed out earlier, we do not try to solve one public health problem, obesity or food insecurity, by exacerbating another. And here that's alcohol outlet density that contributes to alcohol misuse and abuse, and community violence associated with that alcohol outlet density. So fundamentally, that's the opposition to the bill. I will point out that there's also a significant issue associated with the shall issue provision that Senator Simon Ayer mentioned. If you look at section C1, it is a shall issue, stripping away from local jurisdictions the power to decide on density and location of alcohol outlets in their community. This is really coming at a bad time when Baltimore City, Prince George's County, and other communities around our state are working to reduce alcohol outlet density and to make sure that alcohol outlets are not located near schools, and 23 within the block of North Avenue that the sponsor referenced here. And so this flies in the face. Moreover, that shall issue, yes, it has to be in a priority funding area, but it can be really any type of establishment. It can be a self-service or delivery-based retail establishment. That's all it has to be. It can be a chain or independently owned, as long as it's in a priority funding area. That has nothing to do with grocery stores, nothing to do with healthy or nutritious food at all. Secondly, it's not going to reduce access. It's not going to increase access to nutritious foods. If you look at section C2 in the bill, it doesn't just limit the may issue to grocery stores in priority funding areas. That may have been the intent, but that is not at all what the bill provides. The bill merely says that if it is a grocery store, they may be issued this license. So nothing will stop the Harris Teeter in Bethesda or the Wegmans in Hunt Valley from securing this Class A license if this bill were to pass. That certainly is not going to contribute to the reducing the obesity problem or increasing food security for members in our challenged communities.
Thank you, Professor Hoke.
Yep, thank you.
Let's go to Jack Malani.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jack Malani, Maryland State Licensed Beverage Association. I will tell you, as a 32-year retailer, I'm actually proud that it's locally owned and controlled by local folks. The first thing that jumped out at me was the resident requirement being stripped. And, I know that the money I make and my partner makes stays in this community. We spend in this community, and I really don't like the fact of out-of-state people taking money out of our communities and sending it out of state. I don't even know if it's going to be taxed. The second thing I would say to you is, if you look at the annual alcohol tobacco tax report the controller does, beer sales have been declining for years. And, you think about that, we have estimates that this will double the amount of Class A licenses. So you're going to put twice as many retail outlets out there with a product that has really been diminishing. I don't care how you look at this. Simple math. It's got to come from somewhere. You're not going to grow that business to any great extent. So to me, this is the type of bill that in honesty, it's almost like we have to figure out the tolerance. Like, for every grocery store that you open, how many of us are going to be gone? How many of the Maryland small business will be gone? I don't know what's an acceptable level. I keep hearing about everyone cares about small businesses. I hope that's true, because as someone who's been in this business and has employed a lot of entry-level folks and what have you, I hope you're looking at that, because it's important to us that you are. The other thing that I would say to you is that when you look at these liquor stores in any district you're at, most of the time when you see a grocery store, they're right next door. So what do you tell that family that has run that business when all of a sudden they're next to a Giant, and Giant's going to sell beer and wine? Mr. Klein talked about bringing people into the store. It's called a loss leader. Are they going to use alcohol and put it at cost to bring you in to buy steaks? They may. It's a good business move, but is that how alcohol should be used in this state? I think that it was set up in a way to keep it controlled locally It wasn't to have a lot of folks using it as loss leaders. I think that we've done a great job with it. I think the businesses that are in the state, the family-owned businesses are important. All of us are struggling through the pandemic. The stores had an initial big bump, but it's all leveled out. And it's just not the right time. Please support the small businesses and oppose this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Malani. Ms. Eck or Dr. Eck, I'm not sure which right. Dr. Eck, I'm sorry.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very quickly, what I'm going to do is just summarize some of the research that supports some of the things that have been brought up, both by yourselves, the senators, and also by some of the other speakers. In general, we feel this bill attempts to use a solution that's not appropriate for the problem, and it introduces significant unintended consequences of expanding alcohol access. So research shows us that liquor stores are already disproportionately found in poor or predominantly minority areas. In a nutshell, we are not aware of any studies or case reports of expanding alcohol sales to grocery and chain stores as a treatment for obesity or for food deserts. Additionally, many other states and cities allow alcohol to be sold in grocery stores, but their food and security issues are no different than ours. We know extensive research tells that increased alcohol availability, such as the density in this bill, directly leads to an increase in consumption and an increase in alcohol-related harms. These harms include violent crime, intentional and unintentional injuries such as suicide and falls, all-cause hospital admissions, intimate partner violence, and child maltreatment. Often a spike in hospital admissions from alcohol-related causes is an early indicator from expanded access. Research has also shown that off-premise outlets like liquor stores or grocery stores are more strongly associated with these harms. Additionally, when you disaggregate the types of off-premise outlets, chain stores are still found to be associated with traumatic injury. And we do have research from Baltimore City specifically, a place with significant issues with food insecurity, and it demonstrates that for every 10% increase in outlet density, it results in a 4% increase in violent crime. So nothing in this bill shows really a direct line between expanding alcohol sales and combating obesity, but we would love to work with folks more on food insecurity issues because it is definitely something we work on. So thank you for allowing us to testify.
Thank you. I think we had a good beginning to this debate. I think we heard clearly the arguments from both sides. We'll take it up in committee is what I can tell you. And obviously, folks on both sides should continue to feel free to try to reach out to senators if you want to expand your comments or your lobbying. So thank you. That concludes the hearing. Thank all of you for your patience. Thank you, Senator McCray. We appreciate it. Okay, Senator Hester, I said you'd be next. Then unfortunately, we'll do Charles County, which is just the sponsor, and Senator Simon-Air, which is the sponsor. So we're going to go to Senator Hester. Senator Hester, originally I thought this was Senator Heddleman's bill, and I got confused, or I would have put hers at the end and maybe not yours, but nevertheless, we'll start with Senator Hester. She'll be followed by Brad Rivkin, Jamie Winden, Kevin Addix, and Sarah Healy. Then we'll have Steve Wise and Jack Milani, who are favorable with amendments. Then we'll go to Nick Manis, and that'll be it. So Senator Hester, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I don't mind going near the end. Senator Heddleman made a lot of good points. So for the record, Senator Katie Fry Hester here for your consideration of Senate Bill 821. Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee, colleagues, we've heard earlier today and throughout the session how important it is for us to support small business during this current pandemic-caused recession. And Senate Bill 821 is one piece of this effort to support our small businesses, and it specifically helps out the 275 breweries, wineries, and distilleries that we have here in the state. They are almost exclusively small Maryland-owned businesses, and they predominantly sell their products within Maryland. They also support over 8,500 direct and indirect jobs in tourism, hospitality, and manufacturing. Similar to the bill we heard earlier today, the governor during the pandemic used his emergency powers to relax certain delivery retail restrictions. These executive orders, which are the foundation for Senate Bill 821, have allowed Maryland's breweries, distilleries, and wineries to reach out to Maryland consumers, even when they can't visit their facilities. In response, these small Maryland-based businesses pivoted and they invested in an innovative approach to attract customers, some of which you'll hear about today. In the process, they've transformed themselves from being hosts at their facilities to being direct consumer providers of highly specialized products. However, now as these small businesses struggle to recover, they face even more uncertainty. As this committee knows, these businesses are heavily regulated, which means that a change to their business model requires legislative approval. So the questions at hand are, will the investments that they made in personal delivery and shipping be wiped out when the state of emergency ends? Will our customers who have received the enhanced service of to-the-door delivery, will they ever return to the tap rooms, the tasting rooms of wineries, distilleries, and breweries at the pre-COVID rates, which formed the bedrock of their business? These 275 small Maryland businesses cannot predict their future. Senate Bill 821 is an attempt to give them some certainty and to provide a roadmap for how Maryland will regulate its business moving forward. Colleagues, this committee has been at the forefront of creating a regulatory framework that has allowed Maryland's alcohol manufacturers to grow by adapting to consumer demands and the needs of the industry. Maryland consumers are demanding these locally manufactured products be shipped directly to their door, and in turn, these small businesses are offering that service to consumers in order to stay in business. If we miss this moment in time to provide statutory certainty, will we look back and wonder, why did this growing industry stall or worse, collapse? Mr. Chairman, in addition to the codifying the privileges granted to the industry during the pandemic, this bill also includes language from Senate Bill 839 of 2020, which Senator Simon Ayre sponsored. That bill passed the Senate, but the clock ran out in the House due to the truncated session. I'd like to request a favorable report for Senate Bill 821, and at this point, turn it over to my expert witnesses, leading off with Brad Rifkin of the Brewers Association of Maryland, Maryland Distillers Guild, and Maryland Wineries Association. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Mr. Rifkin, you're on.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, Brad Rifkin on behalf of the Brewers Association of Maryland, the Maryland Wineries Association, and the Maryland Distillers Guild, and we want to thank Senator Freihester for her support of the industry. Most notably, this bill codifies the off-premise sales channels that were granted to my clients at the onset of the state of emergency, namely employee delivery, so only our employees, direct shipment using a common carrier like FedEx, and the repeal of certain to-go limits that only apply to a select number of our licensees. While we believe the current consumer demand for these privileges may be our new normal, we're proposing a 3-year sunset on those provisions that would toll the day the state of emergency ends. However, as the senator pointed out, Senate Bill 839 last year, which passed the Senate and unfortunately stalled in the House due to the truncated session, we would keep those things permanent. Members of the committee, I can assure you that the associations I represent wish they weren't here today. With more than half of the industry seeing a 40% drop in sales over the last year, despite the availability of these privileges, they're here because they need statutory certainty. As this committee can attest, expanding the sales capabilities at our facilities, not away, has been the focal point of recent legislation, and that's for good reason. It's the tap rooms and tasting rooms across the state that has allowed my client to focus on branding their product in an ultra-saturated industry, and the direct-to-consumer sales at our breweries, wineries, and distilleries that has provided the much-needed margins to reinvest in workforce and infrastructure. Yet last March, the tap rooms and tasting rooms shut, and while some reopened, albeit partially, the vast majority show no signs of returning to normal anytime soon. Notably, 65% of the industry said their on-premise sales dropped by more than 50% over the last year. But the industry has resolve, it's tough, and it has a chance to persevere thanks to these consumer demands for these off-premise sales delivery channels. So we're asking the committee to pivot with us to support the business owners that invested for these new channels. You'll hear shortly from Jamie Winden, who's the president of the Maryland Distillers Guild and the founder of Lion Rum in St. Michael's. She purchased a vehicle to deliver her products all across the state to consumers. And she's kept her tasting room shut from the onset of the pandemic to keep people safe. Others purchase canning lines or shipping logistics, and so on. These investments have kept Maryland businesses open and Marylanders employed. Finally, I'd like to speak to a couple of things that you might hear from the retailers and the wholesalers. First, you may hear that the passage of this bill will spawn litigation and therefore is the reason behind making the sunset short if we were to propose it. I would submit to you that helping our in-state breweries, wineries, and distilleries recover from the continuing economic fallout far outweighs any speculative direct shipment litigation down the road. These alcohol cases take years to resolve, And if this legislative body or the representatives of the retailers or wholesalers want to come in and fix it at that time, by all means. Moreover, you may hear that codifying the delivery privileges, somehow the General Assembly will undercut the sanctity of the three-tier system and jeopardize public safety. And that's ever apparent in a letter submitted by the two largest wine and spirits wholesalers that do nearly $8 billion of sales annually. Putting aside the fact that direct shipment has been the law of the land in Maryland for a decade, putting aside the fact that we have not heard about widespread complaints as it relates to our employees delivering our products that we manufacture to consumers since the onset of the pandemic, I'll simply suggest that the comments are being made time and time and time again. But here's the reality. In 2006, wineries received self-distribution rights. In 2010, wineries received retail rights. In 2011, wineries received direct shipping rights, the very direct shipping we're talking about for breweries and distilleries. Simply put, the manufacturing tier has both retail and distribution rights, and it has for years, and the sky has not fallen. The rigid three-tier system as we know it coming out of Prohibition no longer exists, and that's thanks to your efforts for meeting consumer demands and keeping people safe.
Mr. Rifkin,
This bill won't reinvent the wheel, and it accounts for the incredible struggle my clients have been battling as we speak, and we respectfully request a favorable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Winden.
Hello, happy birthday, Chair Pinsky.
Stop. Thank you.
As a gift to you, I cut my testimony into a small amount. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Jamie Winden. I am the president of the Maryland Distillers Guild and the founder of Lion Rum Distillery. This pandemic has been the absolute worst. I closed my business overnight 51 weeks ago. And if it wasn't for the governor's executive orders, I would definitely not be here today because I believe we would no longer be in business. Along with 30 other distilleries across the state, we all stepped up and made hand sanitizer for months. And when we got back to business, making spirits, we all pivoted in a very unexpected way. We launched online stores. As you heard, we bought a van. We now fulfill home deliveries across the state safely and responsibly 5 days a week. Going across the state is key. Any kind of radius that would limit that. I'm in a rural area of the Eastern Shore. 95% of my customers order online and we deliver to them. The vast majority of my fellow alcohol manufacturers have also invested in new ways and systems to ship their products and to deliver via employees. What we've done demonstrates a commitment to being responsible and to retaining our employees. I also really need to point out that for the last 7 years, we as a Maryland distillery have successfully grown and thrived while functioning as a manufacturer, a wholesaler, and a retailer. We've done this responsibly, no issues there, crossing and making those three tiers blend together. But in 2020, the only part of our sector that was hurt was the retail. And any suggestion that our direct-to-consumer sales that we're recouping in this more flexible way will ever hurt our fellow Maryland retailers is ludicrous at this time during the pandemic or any point in the future. So I just want to say the legislation before you does two very important things that I know this committee is dedicated to. It protects Maryland employees and it helps Maryland employers. And it has a proven almost 12-month track record of really working for us. So please just allow us to continue with some sense of certainty. While we would love this to be permanent, we're happy with an extensive sunset so that we can just regain what we've lost, stay in business, continue to pay taxes, continue to employ Marylanders. And for all of these reasons, your dedicated, hardworking Maryland distillers ask for a favorable report on SB 821.
Thank you, Ms. Winden. Let's go to Kevin Addix, followed by Sarah Healy, and then we'll go to the opponents.
Good day, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Kevin Addix with Grow and Fortify, serving as the Executive Director of the Maryland Wineries Association, Brewers Association of Maryland, and Maryland Distillers Guild. This bill includes language passed by your committee and in the Senate last year, which ran out of time in the House. It creates, very briefly, a unified offsite permit bringing parity to the three industries. It also clarifies language in the Class 5 and Class 8 brewery licenses that have caused confusion and consternation in county planning and zoning offices. It essentially recodifies existing privileges in a more efficient manner. Finally, the bill offers technical fixes from the Brewery Modernization Act of 2019 that we and our industry colleagues agree must be addressed. And on the continuation of privileges and provisions enabled by the pandemic, you may hear that lifting the 288 ounce beer and 3-bottle spirits to go sales limits should be strictly enforced, despite our regulator clearly, publicly on Facebook and on their website announcing in writing that these were exempted on and waived on March 18, 2020. The emergency lifting of these caps have been critical to our members' survival. Given what's occurring in the hospitality and tourism industry due to the ongoing crisis, this bill is the single most important legislation we've brought to this committee, period. It provides a lifeline by extending emergency provisions to our producers and our customers. And we don't know when our customers are going to be willing to do what they've done in the past. We don't know when they're willing to come back to our facilities. We ask that you continue champion our business and our market and getting our products to market. And with that, on behalf of the entire industry and my dogs in the background, I request your favorable consideration of SB 821. Thank you.
Thank you, and your dog gets 2 votes.
Thank you.
Sealy.
They'll take it.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Sarah Healy. I am the president of the Brewers Association of Maryland, as well as the HR manager of Union Craft Brewing in Baltimore City. I want to thank Senator Fry Hester for her leadership on this effort. We truly appreciate this. I'm going to keep my testimony very brief and just echo everything that my colleagues have said. I have spoken to many brewery members throughout the pandemic about ways that they have pivoted their businesses. One of those just this week, a brewery owner recently, 8 months ago, went out and got a full-time job on top of his brewery business to support his family and invested over $100,000 in a canning line so that he could sell cases of beer to go from his tasting room, not having people there to enjoy pints of beer. The lengths that our businesses have been willing to go to keep their doors open, to keep people on payroll is truly remarkable. And it would not be possible without the extensions of these executive orders. Here at Union, we are a Class 5 brewery, quite large in Baltimore City. Being able to sell beer to go and to deliver beer to our customers has literally been our lifeblood. We have not had people on site in 51 weeks, as Jamie was saying. We had a little bit of outdoor, but it was pretty abysmal. People want to be safe. So if we can continue that, I think we would be happy if it's the will of the committee to accept the 3-year sunset, but just giving our businesses the ability to plan moving forward would be super helpful. I want to thank the committee for your time today and just respectfully request a favorable report on Senate Bill 821. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Healy. Let's go to the favorable with amendments, then we'll take any questions, although there won't be many at this time. Steve Wise and Jack Malani, then we'll go to the opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. When I spoke earlier on Senator Hedelman's bill, I mentioned that we were seeking a sunset on that in large part for consistency, and I referenced another bill, and this is that other bill. What we said there was there should be a time limit on it, and here the reasons for a time limit are twofold. Number one, as has been mentioned, there is a Supreme Court case which says that what you do for in-state manufacturers, like the breweries and wineries and distilleries that have spoken, you must also do for out-of-state manufacturers. So when you open this door to direct shipment, you're not just doing it for Maryland manufacturers, you're ultimately doing it for every manufacturer in the country. And that can take hold either through a lawsuit, or maybe the comptroller says because of that decision, they just happen to open the door for that. We're asking you to time limit this because if you do it permanently or for any length of time, you're not going to be able to close that door. And when you allow direct shipment by all those manufacturers, you are hurting the Maryland wholesalers and you're hurting all the Maryland retailers. And so keep that in mind when you decide how much time you're going to allow this to go on. The second reason that it's important is direct ship is very different than a brick and mortar purchase. Every day when our package stores open, it's possible that a police cadet comes in and does a sale for an underage sale, does a sting for an underage sale. That's true in a bar and restaurant. It is not true when the UPS driver pulls up to a residence and drops off a package. There has been zero enforcement of that in this state. And that's not a slight to the enforcers. They don't have the resources for it. But until you're convinced that you can have that same level of enforcement with direct ship, you should not open the door to it permanently or for any length of time. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Malani.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to be brief, I think the retail community certainly supports, the manufacturers, so the Maryland manufacturers. We would like to see them continue doing what they're doing for a period of time. I just want to remind you of the discussions and negotiations that took place in this committee. We were always told, look, let us have some sales when people come to the brewery or distillery. It'll promote the product, it'll help grow the product, and eventually it'll help you at the retail store because people will come in asking for it. And you know what? That's how it should work. And we're not saying it, anything differently in the near term, but for this to go too long really kind of flies in the face of those negotiations, because I can tell you there's a beer that I have not been able to get during all this pandemic. And the reason was they're selling it all themselves. I get it. And I'll live with that because I want everybody to prosper. But there's going to come a point where that's just not what we negotiate. We negotiated in good faith. All of us are willing to work in the short term to get everybody through this. But, if we're going to have the negotiations to do away with the limits, let's do them when things are back to normal and debate it that way, not during the pandemic. Let's get through it, and then we can have these discussions again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Malani. Okay, let's go to the opponent. I'm sorry, Senator Kagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It was between my service in the House and the Senate when direct wine shipping was legalized in Maryland. And I'm just wondering the impact of that and whether folks are who's benefiting, who's struggling. Steve Wise is there. Do you want to take a hack at that, or Kevin, or I defer to the witnesses
Sure.
or the chairman? Who can best answer that, please?
Sure, I'm happy to take a stab at that. I can't offer you specific numbers, but I can tell you that the number of people that have registered to be direct wine shippers in the state is quite substantial. And you may say, well, that's a good thing. That's good. The consumer has access to a greater number of products, but it doesn't stop there. You have to also consider what does that do to your local businesses or in the case of Montgomery County, the dispensary, when they go around the 3-tier system. Like I said, I can't give you a financial impact, although I made a note today that I think we could back into that number through some of the comptroller's data, and I might try to do that.
Okay. Well, I'm curious because there were people who thought, doom and gloom or yay for consumers, but everyone's going to get, I'm making this up, California wine shipped to them and it's going to hurt our Maryland wineries and all that. So I'd love to know how that affects folks. And while I have the floor, let me just say hi to Jamie Winden. It's lovely to see you and I hope you continue to flourish. Nice to see you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Gallion, I just sent you a text message. I hope you can read that. Let's go to the opposition. Mr. Manis.
Thank you.
Mr. Manis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Just to clarify, I'm favorable with amendment also. So I apologize if I signed up wrong. So, not only is it your birthday, but it's my granddaughter's first birthday. So I'm going to be very brief because I need to get to it quickly. So this bill is basically two parts. One is the bill that you passed last year that we all agreed to, which was a cleanup from the Modernization Act that you passed that gave the brewers, and I'm strictly talking about brewers, many things that they wanted to compete in the marketplace, from increasing the self-distribution numbers to increasing the numbers they could manufacture to permits to opportunities, to farmers markets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So last year, when they said they had a cleanup bill, we said, yes, we would be supportive. And this year, that's why we're favorable with amendments, because those parts of the bill were very favorable too. But as has been testified, we do have concerns with the ongoing privileges that the executive order has given. We understand that there's a pandemic and that they needed these to continue to operate. Let's be clear, we also distribute a lot of these Maryland breweries beers, so they're our clients and we want them to see them succeed. However, we don't want to directly compete with them in what we do, and that's distribute. So we think that there should be a sunset sooner rather than later, and be happy to work with the committee as we move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Manis. That concludes the hearing. I think we understand this bill. It has some similarities to what we heard. Senator Hedelman, one is dealing with restaurants, one is dealing with manufacturers. We'll have to take them both up and figure out if there's a solution to resolve this issue. Senator Hester.
Am I allowed to ask a question, Mr. Chair?
You may, if it's a brief one where it's more bills. But
oh, let me ask the question. Maybe they can follow up offline. I was just curious. First of all, if there were any jurisdictions in the state that had issued executive orders to close the on-premise liquor stores, and whether any liquor store members, had actually, because we've got a year now of this executive order in place, whether they actually seen their business go down because of the executive order being in place for this past year. So maybe Steve Wise, you could get back to us with that. Would that be okay?
To answer now or to get back to you? Either way.
Get back to us. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you so much. And then I just wanted to point out, Mr. Chairman, that Senator Gallion is number 2 on this bill, and he's worked really hard fighting for the farmers in his district.
Okay, that'll put it over the finish line. But thank you for sharing that. Okay, that concludes that bill hearing. We have 2 more witnesses and people can de-stress for the weekend. Senator Ellis, E33, Class 4 limited winery license. There is no opposition. Followed by Senator Simon-Ayer with your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee members, for your patience. Senate Bill 833 is a local bill authorizing a Class 4 limited winery license to a holder in Charles County who has interest in a retail license. This does not apply to the premises for which a Class 4 limited winery license apply. This bill takes effect July 1, 2021. There are no state effects, no local effects fiscally, and minimal small business effect. I ask for your favorable vote on Senate Bill 833. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're muted, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I don't see any questions on this not very controversial bill. That concludes the hearing. And finally, Senator Simon-Ayer, the subcommittee leader, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make this real brief. As amended, this is a local emergency bill that would require reimbursement of certain license fees over the next 2 years. That's the bill.
Any questions for the good subcommittee chairman? Okay, then that completes the hearing. Thank you all for your patience and your work this week. As of now, committee, we have voting Wednesday afternoon and a long one on Friday. We still have 100 bills to try to move, many of them, and figure out. We'll do the best we can. If I can figure out another time for voting, we might have to. I know there's a subcommittee of education on Monday at 1. And is there a cyber meeting?
Yes, it's a cyber meeting at noon.
Okay, and a cyber meeting at noon. That being said, thank you all for your birthday wishes. Relax, try not to think too much legislature, take a walk over the weekend. have some wine or some bourbon or something.
Yeah.
Meet up. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, OB, Senator Patterson.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Happy birthday.
All right, thank you.